level. And we allow some people to chant or sing, kill someone else, and we find that accepting. To me, that is in direct conflict with any aspect of human rights and many aspects of Article 9 institutions, the human rights institutions, and so on. So in that sense, I have a concern. I can understand that this is a basis for mobilization support, but my concern is that this is not building a nation, and that must be a reason for concern. Now, Julius Malema is running around. He's asking for killing the farmers, killing the Boers. These are my people. These are my people for the last 300 years. We had a long heritage and history in this country, and now there are people asking to kill us. And that is a real concern to me.
Okay.
And I think that is against the basics of human rights and our Constitution, despite the fact that it is interpreted in the other way by the Constitutional Court.
All right. I mean, glad you mentioned it, because I mean, constitutionally, it's not illegal to chant it, and it's been cleared as such. But I understand, therefore, how you feel offended or affronted to that, right? But one of the factors in support of it is the fact that it's never actually been a call to actually kill, because if it was, then the killing rate has been shockingly poor, meaning that it's not achieved any of the aims if it was a literal interpretation.
Well, if you look at the statistics and you look at the number of people killed, it's a huge number. But that is not the only factor. There's also another factor, and that is the way the people are killed. Sometimes they have knife wounds, up to 60, 70 of them. They are brutal attacks on people. And I cannot see how any democracy can justify that in terms of the principles of our Constitution and the way we like to deal with human rights.
All right.
In that sense, there's a huge conflict.
Okay.
And I have concerns about the judgment in this regard. If I compare that to other assessments of racial injustices. And then we must also take into consideration, at the moment, there are about 140 plus laws that are actively discriminating against white people. And that is institutionalized discrimination compared to what we have seen during apartheid times. And this, to me, is a real reason for concern. I am in no way justifying what happened during apartheid, but I have concerns about what is happening at the moment in South Africa. I believe we are actively, the government are actively promoting racial discrimination, and we need to end this. And at the moment, the international world, like the times of apartheid, are telling us, you are on the wrong way. And I believe we need to listen. Maybe the voice came from Donald Trump, but I can assure you there will be many other sources in the world that will accentuate the same thing. And that, to me, is a reason of concern.
Okay, so in saying that very quickly as we wrap up, then your views are consistent with the views of AfriForum, and they're also consistent with the views of AfriForum on the one hand, but certainly Donald Trump and Elon Musk, that there are at least 140 plus discriminatory laws against white people, or Afrikaners or white people in general. Let's end with this then, right? So let's say that you say it's problematic. How then do we save the situation? What needs to happen?
Well, I'm very clear on that, and I'm on many fora where I'm arguing this. We need fundamental reform of the current system. We cannot continue with the current transformation process because this is not only a disaster in terms of racial discrimination, it's not contributing to economic growth. We have the highest unemployment rate in the world according to some sources. We have social conditions. We have the highest level of disparity between rich and poor. We need to change that. I believe that all South Africans need to come together. Like the late 80s, early 90s, we must discuss our future and we must decide on a better future for all South Africans, black, white, colored, Indian,
and
all inclusive.
Let's leave it at that.
That is my strategy, and I believe that the time has come for that. And if it's not happening this year, we are going to see that not too far away from here.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Lots to consider based on those comments and questions and challenges, really, from Professor Andre Duvenhage, political analyst at the Northwest University. So what do you think? Yes, you agree with him. Drop the kill the Boer, kill the farmer, and rethink everything that we're doing right now regarding race or not. Welcome to the National Pulse.
Extraordinary doesn't just happen. It's built, brick by digital brick. With every connection, every innovation, every leap forward. A cloud that scales with your vision. Security that earns your trust. AI that empowers smarter decisions. IoT that connects what truly matters. Connectivity that bridges every gap. We're not just building technology, we're building the future of South Africa. Stronger businesses, thriving communities, a nation connected, empowered, and ready to lead. Together, let's build the extraordinary. Start your journey at vodacombusiness.co.za. Vodacom Business. Further together.
Your nights just got a turbo boost. Buckle up because at 10 p.m. it's all thrill, mystery and pure entertainment. Mondays to Wednesdays, we are back on the track with Top Gear Season 14, where speed meets insanity and the world's wildest cars get pushed to their limits. On Thursdays, we uncover the truth in Imposter, Back from the Dead. Season 1 kicks off with chilling twists in a tale of deception, survival, and secrets long buried. Fridays, we take a deep dive into the unknown with Secrets of the Bermuda, exploring the myths, the disappearances, and the terrifying truth behind the world's most infamous triangle. 3 explosive shows, 1 unforgettable hour. It all starts at 10 p.m. only on S3. Don't miss it!
Have you heard the latest news? South Africa's Vincent was a 40-year-old man, wanted to save money on his car insurance premium. So he got a quote from OUTsurance. Vincent now saves a massive 990 rand a month on his 2022 Ford Ranger 2.2 litre. OUTsurance clients always get something out. You could too. Get a quote today and see how much they could save you on your car insurance. Why pay more when you could pay less? Switch to OUTsurance today. SMS OUT to 30754. That's OUT 30754. A licensed insurer and FSP T's and C's online.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So from one significant development regarding Kill the Boer, Kill the Farmer to another significant development regarding the DRC, right? News now is that the former DRC President Joseph Kabila is back in that country, ending many years of his self-imposed exile. What does this mean? And there are implications in terms of how the people of that country perceives it. Nixon Katembo is with me, who's the African Affairs commentator on Channel Africa as well. So, Nixon, appreciate your time. Thanks for connecting on the National Pulse.
For having me, Ashraf, and good afternoon to SFM listeners.
Okay, so I hear first that Joseph Kabila went on to self-imposed exile. So why did he go on self-imposed exile and why did he come back?
Well, right towards the end of his term, Joseph Kabila wanted to change the constitutions that could have empowered him to contest for another term in office. However, due to the political dynamics in the country, he did not, and therefore he organized the elections, eventually getting to a coalition with the current president after much talked about elections that many viewed as a sham, stolen, to which the current leader of the M23, alias Flav Congo, Corneille Nangaa, has admitted that indeed the current president did not win the elections, and it was an inside job organized between the political party and the outgoing president to have the current president in power. So, because of the disagreement that emerged after that, I think the former president thought that having had an agreement with the current president, he will be able to have a political maneuver and controlling the current president and have a leverage over the decisions framework within the country. But it seems the current president made the constitutional changes, a parliamentary coup in terms of changing the majority in the parliament and therefore entrenching himself in power and breaking free from the hold.
Okay, so now that he's returned, right? I mean, what are the implications? Because I understand that in terms of the immunity he may have had to persecution, I believe that's dropped away on the one hand. There's also thoughts about where he fits in regarding the incumbent president, Felix Tshisekedi, and others too.
I think there is a general absurdity in talking about political individuals on terms of what the Congo is. And Kabila Joseph, as well as President Tshisekedi, are just a part of the entire political deficiencies or problem of the Congo thereof. In my view, is that the Congo have 3 to 4 major problems. One is a lack of governance or even political leadership, therefore. The second is the lack of a proper political culture within which a politician can flourish and guide their political thought and the ideological framework in terms of leading the country. And then the third is perhaps what I would call the inherent problem within which the problem of a state formation in the post-independence era, where we know the ideological framework that was brought in by Patrice Lumumba in terms of Pan-Africanism and looking at how the Congo should be free. But we see that political machinations since independence that led to the death of Patrice Lumumba and those who supported Mobutu afterwards still have a kind of a problem how the country is run, that leading up to the fourth problem now, what I would call the culture of impunity in the Congo. And those are the major issues that one should look at, whether it is about the return of Kabila in the country or the current president. We see this culture of impunity breeding now many of the several problems, including the political, the culture of the personality culture within the political framework in the country. People looking at leaders and leaders of political party rather than looking at the decisional framework and the building strong state institutions that govern beyond the leadership, or the political leadership within the country.
All right. So as we get to news time, just a final comment from you, which is then what has been the reaction from the people of the Congo as it stands on the return of their former leader, and what role, if anything, do you see himself play in that region?
Kabila's role is ambivalent, and it could lead to the disintegration of the Congo if not handled carefully. And the reception is of mixed reaction. If you speak to those who are in government and those who feel that they are in power, they feel that he is an inciter. He has supported the rebellion, and he had his time in power for the 18 years. But if you speak to Kabila himself and those who support him, they will say that the current government lack political directions, and they have changed the institutional framework that he tried so hard to build during his past 18 years when he came to power, during which the country was facing a war. And in my view, that this is a return to where Congo has been in early 1998 or 2000, when the Sun City talk were held here. But the basic problems are those that I alluded to earlier: impunity and so on.
Well, as per always, it's going to leave us with lots of questions that need some answers, and hopefully we'll find out about that pretty soon. Nixon Katembo, as always, thanks for your time, reflecting on the return of Joseph Kabila to the DRC after his long period of exile, and he's gone on his own and he's returned on his own. What does it mean for his country? Let's get the news headlines. Here's on Della Mbana.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, South African households with access to electricity have increased sharply since 2002, according to Stats SA. The General Household Survey shows the percentage of households that were connected to the electricity supply increased from 76.7% in 2002 to 90.2% in 2024. President Cyril Ramaphosa says there's no intention to reform the current statutory laws dealing with mineral extraction in the country. Ramaphosa highlighted this while answering oral questions in the National Assembly. And the South African government-backed candidate for the African Development Bank Group President, Bajabulile Swazi Chabalala, says she remains optimistic that she will win the race. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 northbound in Bedfordview is slow moving on the link to the N12 east at Gululi's interchange. The M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is slow moving towards Crown interchange, and the N3 southbound in Spruitview queuing after Heidelberg Road due to roadworks. In KZN, Umgeni Road westbound is slow moving. That's towards Springfield Park. The R102 in Tongaat has a fatal bus crash reported. That's at Hambanathi, and you're asked to expect delays and diversions. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound has a crash at Gilbeson Drive. The N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound queuing towards Hospital Bend, and the M5 southbound queuing towards Milner Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, Tumi, you have a build-up, a banana build-up, is that right?
Absolutely. A very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Well, Banyana coach Desiree Ellis says that they want to keep their options open in the upcoming Three Nations series to help select the best possible squad for the Women's Africa Cup of Nations title defense. Banyana's opening fixture is against Botswana tomorrow, which will be followed by Zambia. That's next week, Tuesday, with both matches taking place at the Lucas Moripe Stadium.
So we wanted to keep our options open and make sure, that we select the best possible squad with a lot of versatility for every eventuality. Because in 2016 we played different, 2018 we played different, 2022 we came differently. And if you watched our games against Malawi, we played differently as well, changed the system, especially the second game, the weather was really not in our favor. So we also sort of had to change the way we play, because it's going to take that, because as much as we analyze teams, they analyze us as well. So we have to make sure that we have different options, different plans, and make sure that during this, I know it's friendlies and people want results, but friendlies is also about to give other players an opportunity, and sometimes you don't get the result, but we're looking for performances, of course, because a performance will give you a result.
Well, still staying with football, Mamelodi Sundowns senior coach Steve Rampela believes that they can replicate the stubbornness shown by Pyramids at Loftus when they play the Egyptian side in the CAF Champions League final return leg on Sunday.
Yeah, it's a draw. We are in the cup final of Cup Champions League. And it's always important not to concede at home. But that it has happened, you cannot regret. You look forward and go to Egypt and try get goals. Also acknowledging the strength of the opponent. And we know how good they are. But sometimes it's equally a hell of a good team.
Elsewhere, former Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp has expressed his devastation at last night's incident, which left 50 people injured, including children, at Liverpool's victory parade. The Reds parade went into chaos after a car collided with a pedestrian in the city centre. The driver was arrested at the scene of the collision, and I actually saw the video of this particular driver, Ashraf. So apparently he was very irritated with the traffic that was caused by this Liverpool parade. Reason. That's what the reports are saying. And then next thing, you just see him reversing into all these people. And now the fans, obviously they're going to retaliate. They start hitting his windows. And then he literally just basically drives over some of them.
I saw it. It's absolutely horrific.
Crazy. Road rage, in the extreme sense. In the meantime, England's women's goalkeeper Mary Earps has retired from international football with immediate effect. Earps has made 53 senior appearances over 8 years for England, playing a significant role in the Lionesses winning Euro 2022 and reaching the final of the 2023 Women's World Cup. In cricket, Punjab Kings coach Ricky Ponting has urged his players not to lose focus. This is after his side qualified for the India Premier League playoffs for the first time in 11 years. Punjab registered their best performance in 2014 when they finished as runners-up to Kolkata Knight Riders, but failed to make the playoffs in the subsequent 10 seasons. They've looked formidable under Ponting and captain Shreyas Iyer this season, however securing a top 2 finish following 9 wins in 14 matches. Finally, in tennis, Nick Kyrgios' planned return to the French Open for the first time since 2017 to play doubles with Jordan Thompson has been spoiled by a fresh knee injury. The 30-year-old has struggled with foot, knee and wrist injuries since his run to the 2022 Wimbledon final and has played only 4 singles matches this year. Now, Kyrgios, who last played at Roland Garros in a second-round loss 8 years ago, had intended to supplement his media work in Paris by standing in for Thompson's regular doubles partner Max Purcell, who is serving a doping ban. On that note, it is a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
Right, perfect. Thanks for that. But so it's we've got an African Champions League and a European Champions League weekend.
Yeah.
Wow.
An interesting one.
Slipper Day is on the 30th of May, and I'm helping to make big dreams come true. When you support Slipper Day, you're helping Reach for a Dream bring smiles and joy to children facing tough illnesses. Do you want to help too? You can visit reachforadream.org.za to find out more about Slipper Day. Let's do it for the dreamers! This is an SABC-supported initiative.
What if you open your night to culture? Try new things and make space for new voices, new stories, and new perspectives. Open up your Saturday night with world-class entertainment, reality TV, and drama from 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
WAFCON defending champions Banyana Banyana have a crucial meeting with the Zebras. Both nations are elevating their preparations for the highly anticipated Women's Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. This is the international friendly. Experience the Southern African Derby, South Africa versus Botswana, this Wednesday 28 May at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, S3 and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The price of milk may be going up, but with Outsurance, you could be saving on your car insurance premiums. Like Irfan, who saves 411 Rand a month on his 2012 Ford Figo 1.4.
For a while, I've been looking for ways to save money, and within 10 minutes, I was signed up with him. I'm saving 411 Rand a month. Outsurance helping me save money.
Switch and save today. SMS OUT to 30754. That's OUT to 30754.
with OUTsurance, when you look at it, it sounds too good to be true, but it's good. It's true.
Have you heard about the legendary Out bonus? After 3 consecutive years of not claiming, you'll get 10% of your paid premiums back in cash. Isn't it time you got something out of your insurance? SMS OUT to 30754. That's OUT to 30754. With OUTsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Okay, I certainly welcome your comments on some of the issues we've covered so far. Certainly, Nixon Katembo talking about the developments in the DRC and the return of Joseph Kabila. And then early on, Professor Andre Duvenage, now effectively in synchronicity with many others like AfriForum and Donald Trump and Elon Musk saying, yes, we do have 140 plus discriminatory messages against laws against white South Africans. So I wonder what you make of that. Of course, central to that was the conversation we had around, kill the boer, kill the farmer. Okay, we'll get to your thoughts in a moment. To call in, it's 086 000 2032. That's live, and then WhatsApp 0614 104 107. Text or voice note, right? 30 seconds each if you're voice noting. Let's get to an important issue regarding Stats SA's numbers on the General Household Survey. So the 2024 Stats SA General Household Survey is out, and there's some important findings. Let's get it from Solly Molaya, the acting DDG responsible for population and social stats at Stats SA. Solly, appreciate your time. Much appreciate you connecting with us on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to the listeners.
Right, you have some really important findings. I leave it to you to just punctuate them. Go for it.
Thank you so much. Today, the Statistician General released a report called General Household Survey. This is our annual survey that we're conducting, and we are basically covering a couple of number of issues. For example, we're looking at issues around access to different service delivery indicators. We're looking at education. We're also looking at issues around the social grant, and also we're looking at how household, in terms of the household arrangement, in terms of how the living arrangement, including again issues around agriculture, and most importantly, what is the main source of household in the household.
Okay, so maybe tell me more, some more detail.
Okay, for example, let's start probably with the service delivery indicators. So the big main indicators that we are tracking is issues around access to water, access to electricity, and access to sanitation. So if you look at, for example, let's start with access to electricity. So the percentage of households who are connected to the main electricity supplier over time we've seen have increased. Even the census is also have confirmed that. I think at the national level we're sitting around 90%. What we are seeing in other provinces, for example, Gauteng and Northwest, and including again with Western Cape, is that the proportion of those households that are connected to the main electricity are dropping, and this is mainly because of the number of informal houses that are now in those spaces, especially in Gauteng, that the proportion of the household themselves are dropping, but then in actual numbers they're actually increasing. That is one. The second point is the issue of a main source of energy for cooking. Over time, we're seeing a lot of South African households are actually now switching into a gas. If you compare in terms of the proportions, when we started in 2002, we were less than 1%. Now in 2024, we're sitting about 7.2% of the household are using gas as a main source of energy for cooking. Electricity is still the number one source of energy for most of the household. What we are also seeing now is that wood and coal is now actually dropping over time, but is still dominated in other provinces, like, for example, Limpopo and Mpumalanga. The last point is the point around the access to water. And I just want to link water with sanitation because they sort of link to each other. So let's start with water. Water, we're seeing that access to the number of households who have access to improved water. What we mean by improved water? We meaning that a source of water in a dwelling or in a yard. We're seeing that we're sitting around 77% of the household. And if you look at the provinces, we are seeing that over time, provinces are also reaching above the 80s, except provinces like your Eastern Cape and Limpopo, which are below the national averages. And again, if you overlay the sanitation indicators, you will see again that your Eastern Cape and Limpopo and KZN, those are some of the provinces that are still struggling when coming to sanitation.
And when you say they're below the national average, I mean, just how, if the national is 80%, then how much below that are they?
Okay, for example, let's look at Limpopo. Limpopo is sitting around 63%, and then Eastern Cape is sitting about 69.9%. And again, this is the reason why I'm saying that if you look at the sanitation indicators, you are also starting to see that the household with, for example, let's use a flush toilet. Your two economic hub, your Western Cape and Gauteng are leading in terms of the number of households, and those are below the 67.7%. At the national level is your Northwest, KZN, Eastern Cape, and Mpumalanga. Limpopo is the last, sitting at 31%. You can compare 31% with the average of 67%. So it's already telling you that in coming to the flush toilet as a facility that the household in Limpopo, very few. What is it that they're using? Then you get now different type of toilet facilities. For example, toilet with ventilation pipe, then it's sitting around 32%, and then toilet without ventilation pipe, then there's a high number of households that in Limpopo and again in Mpumalanga that are sitting around 37 to 32% respectively, with toilet without ventilation pipe.
Okay, let's leave it at that. And what it tells me is that there's some areas we find, but there are other areas in some regions of South Africa that we are so lagging behind, even though we are 30 years into democracy, isn't it?
Definitely, yes.
Yeah. Solly Molai, thanks for your time. Acting DDG responsible for population and social stats at Stats SA. So there you are. I mean, overall improved water, 80%. But the issue about electricity is interesting, that there's less access to electricity, mainly because of more homes as opposed to less electricity. So as more and more the population increases and more homes in informal settlements are built up, then the electricity that should follow that certainly can't cope on that issue. Right, we'll get to you and my sense of you and your pulse right after this.
Did you hear that? That's the sound of your car about to cost you a lot of money. Sorry. The engine noise you should be hearing is the boat on your upcoming diving trip. But don't let cash flow hold you back. Do both. Get a Nedbank personal loan of up to 400,000 Rand. Apply online at nedbank.co.za today. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Pyramids FC is highly confident that they will make history by engraving their name in African football books for their first ever star, while Masandawana believe they know how to prevail away from home. Cairo tackles Turco. This is the second leg battle of the Total Energies CAF Champions League final. Catch Pyramids FC versus Mamelodi Sundowns FC this Sunday, 1 June at 6:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and S3. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The land is their legacy, but in season 3 of Yellowstone, that legacy is under fire. Kevin Costner returns as John Dutton, fighting to protect his ranch, his family, and everything that can't be bought. More enemies, deeper betrayal, and the battle for the West, it's only just begun. Yellowstone Season 3. This land was won with blood, and it'll take more to keep it. Saturdays at 9:30, starts 24 May, only on S3. Open up.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Okay, let me get to you and get a sense of what you're thinking about some of the issues we've raised today, but other issues perhaps we haven't raised, but you want to talk about it anyway. So go ahead and tell us, right? To call in live, and you know, Keys is quick in taking your call, so you better get in, like, what can I say? Sharp, right? 0614 104 107, 0614 104 107. And then that's the WhatsApp, and then to call in 086 000 2032. Right. First up, we go to the comments on Professor Andre Duvenage from Becky in Mpumalanga, which I'm not surprised many people have an opinion on what he said. Go for it, Becky. Hi.
Hi, Ashraf. I'm a little bit disturbed and very disappointed the manner in which Professor Duvenage expressed himself with regards to the chant that is a revolutionary song, and words for it, even if you tried to speak some sense to him, to make him understand that this is a chant that has been decided by the apex court of this country. The Constitutional Court is the highest court. He must, as a professor, I think he will understand if he goes to Section 2 of the Constitution. And I don't think that the chant renders or it is inconsistent with the Constitution. But I want just to say to him that he needs not to personalize this chant. He needs not also to put it into a different context. Because when all those things were happening, the authors of that particular song, they were in pain, they were in agony. That is part of our heritage and our history as the black people of South Africa. So when we sing, some of us, that song make us feel better because we didn't have firearms and we didn't have guns to fire to those who were killing the undefenseless people of South Africa. But at least we'll sing a song that will at least, that will be sharp like a spear. So now, what I want to say, Ashraf, is that to the professor, we are not taking instructions from America. We are a sovereign country. We've got our own ways, we've got our own laws, and if he is serious that he wants South Africa to be united and to be one, he must start looking into things differently and positively so.
Okay.
In a very positive manner.
All right. Can we move on? Because I think you've made the point, and I think you've been very clear where you fit in. I must also tell you on a very personal level, I was also surprised that at his understanding, considering he lectures in political science, he understands things are expected. But of course, we've chatted to him very often, and I would have expected maybe a slightly different response from him. But he was very clear, nothing nuanced about that. He effectively was consistent with the position of AfriForum and others on that issue. So, Becky, thanks for that call. Right to Haley in Joburg we go to. Hi, Haley.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ashraf and the listeners.
Yeah, just the Ashraf, cut the Mr. out, okay? So go for
Right,
it.
Mr. Ashraf. Yeah, wonderful, Siobhan.
Thank you.
Look, what I want to highlight, let's go to the reality. Let's not deny the truth, what is happening in South Africa. Let me tell you, 31 years I stay in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
I never see apartheid. I never see the racism issue. But the problem is the black majority oppresses the black minority and the white minority in this country. The political rule of the government policy is very segregative and a discriminative rule what in this country I see. I stand with the Professor Andre. What's happening? Kill the Boer, kill the white. In the 21st century, in a civilized society, we speak by the name of democracy at the moment. What Nelson Mandela and the many freedom fighters, they fought to bring democracy and equality for everyone who live in this country. Let me tell you, all the millions of migrants killed in South Africa, silenced, no media, no coverage, no international society or community understand. We are the same like one day only the God will answer in South Africa what is happening. So-called massacre or genocide of the crime. The nation is now under the gangster, the gang or the criminals are ruling internally. The unknown government is inside in the South African government. So-called the deep state or the third hand was ruling from the outside. Internally, the nominal government or the stand of the country, the political system, when I say, really do not does much. A child of migrant who born, they deny the birthright. There's a lot of segregation of so-called migrants when they go to the immigration office. For 20 years, 15 years, they don't do the job. Only they collect money and they send you out. So everything is unfair. It's inhuman things are done. So-called eyewitness in 31 years, how many whites are killed? What Julius Malema saying is wrong. You know what? You can speak the kill the Boer, kill the black, kill the Indian, kill the Chinese. You cannot sing this serious issue in the public. And the politicians, let's say one of the ministers, I forgot, he was in Ethiopia. He was denied the visa to move around. He doesn't have a visa. Then he was angry. The law of Ethiopian country is, doesn't allow if you don't have any visa in a country to move around. Whether you are a minister or president or whoever, that minister, he was still negative. There are many ministers in this country, including the immigration department. Now current, I'm not going to blame.
Okay, but Haley, I need to move on. I think you've made your point. I mean, really, I hear you. My apologies. I have to move on to other people. I think, because now you're talking about Ethiopia, I think the main point you made is you saying that chant has got to stop the way you see it, right? So thank you for that. So there you are. Another point of view, Haile in Joburg, in fact, in support of what Professor Duvenage has said. Right, so who else? Where do you sit on this one? Is Prof. Duvenage convincing enough in that conversation that he had with him, that way he said, hey man, it's not just this is wrong, although the Constitution has allowed it, they made a mistake, according to him, and then all the other discriminatory laws must end, according to him. Doesn't link it to transformation. Mastermind in Mpumalanga, we need a mastermind. Go for it.
Thank you very much, Ashraf and listeners. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, right?
I am extremely, absolutely disagree with the professor because Ashraf, if I can start here, now I see most of the topics is about the song, but surprisingly me, because most of when this issue all started, it was just the bill that was signed by the president. So the white people going to America and reporting that such as Solidarity and AfriForum. Now, you see all those things about the bill that was the president signed. They take it away. They don't talk about anymore. Even to Donald Trump, they didn't this issue raised. Now they're raising a song. But if you look, Ashraf, the song before they going there, if they were having a problem for the song before the AfriForum going there, why they didn't raise their concern. And now, if the EFF has a rally everywhere in the country since it was formed, when they finish Ashraf, there is no one who's complaining that they have come from the rally and killing the white people. Now, because Mr. Donald Trump has promised them to lean to him, these white people, now they started a song. So why they don't take on that thing? They were started in the beginning?
Okay, I got that. Yeah, can we move on? Thanks for that, Mastermind. So that's a point that I also brought up earlier. You see, you may be supportive of the song, or you may actually dislike it completely. But let's just say you're supportive of the principle of the song. Then, if some may say that song really is an actual call to action, which just about everybody, including Ramaphosa and Thabo Mbeki, forget even Julius Malema, says that it's not true. It's a symbol of an institution. But if it was an actual call, then, as I've said before, then whoever's made the call has failed miserably, because nobody listens to that, isn't it? Think about it. Temba in Campton Park, hello. Temba, hi.
Hi, help you?
Yeah, very good, Temba. Go for it. What's your point?
Good, man. Professor Andre conveniently forgets that the Afrikaners themselves during the 50s and the 40s, there was the same black empowerment that was given to the Afrikaners. He's a professor. He knows that very well.
Mm-hmm.
He's there in history. But he conveniently ignores that today. But anyway, talking about the slogan, kill the Boer, I would also say, well, it's something that we regret, but the constitution of our country says it's right. And he's a professional. I have no choice. We have to respect our constitution. Period. I mean, what else do we do? We have to respect our
But I mean, maybe
otherwise they'll be fired.
there's maybe two parts to that. One is respect the Constitution, which we're doing, but it doesn't mean the Constitution allows it that we actually must chant it, meaning has it outlived its purpose? It may not be inconstitutional, but has it outlived its purpose? I mean, what purpose does it serve in South Africa 2025 and beyond?
Agreed, Ashraf. But you can analyze what he said. He says Afrikaners or farmers are killed because of Julius Malema. I think it's very wrong, because everybody who's killed in South Africa, whether it's black or white, is violently killed, even by the white farmers themselves. You remember those people that were fed into the lions by the farmers themselves? Nowadays, there's a speculating on the media, the speculation of a video where the white farmer is putting the black person in the coffin. And can we now start saying the farmers are killing the black people? That would be very, very dangerous for us to say that.
Yeah, point made.
Individual people.
All right, let's leave it at that. Thank you for making your point here. We're certainly all on a pulse in one way or the other, although many of us listening and calling in have different views. But that gives you a very good sense of what the nation's feeling at any one time, isn't it? Let's get the news. It's 4 o'clock.
Thank you, Ashraf. Top stories at 4. Stats SA releases the General Household Survey data, and MKMP Mzwanele Manyi acts as Chief Whip. For SAFM News, I am Ondalambana, and a very good afternoon. South African households with access to electricity have increased sharply since 2002, according to Stats SA. The General Household Survey shows the percentage of households that were connected to the electricity supply increased from 76.7% in 2002 to 90.2% in 2024. Statistician General Risenga Maluleka.
When we look at the 77.3% of electricity nationally as a main source of energy for cooking, we could see that provinces like Limpopo were sitting at 34.3%, and of course 16.7% of households in Mpumalanga continued to use wood for cooking purposes.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says there's no intention to reform the current statutory laws dealing with mineral extraction in the country. Ramaphosa highlighted this while answering oral questions in the National Assembly. The president says all companies profiting from mining are obliged to pay tax royalties.
Mineral resources are finite and cannot be replaced. So it is therefore important that a tax or a royalty should be levied. While it is always good to review existing policies against national priorities, there is no intention at this stage to reform the current mineral royalty regime as it is seen to work. The honourable member raises the issue of resource rent taxes. Such taxes ensure that companies extracting minerals pay a larger share of their profits to government.
Sources have confirmed to the SABC that MKMP Mzwanele Manyi has been axed from his position as the Chief Whip with immediate effect. He has been replaced by Colleen Makhubela, who is the former Johannesburg Council Speaker. She is also the founder of the South African Rainbow Alliance, which she formed after leaving COPE. MK Party is the third largest party in Parliament and is the official opposition after the DA joined the Government of National Unity. Manyi defected from the EFF in the 7th Parliament and joined the MK. The family of the award-winning South African actor Presley Tshweneyagae has thanked the public for their support and messages of condolences during their loss. Tshweneyagae passed away at his Pretoria home during the early hours of this morning. He was best known for his role in Tsotsi, which won the Academy Award for Foreign Language Film at the 78th Academy Awards in 2006. Locally, he starred in films including Number Number, Zama Zama, the number and the river. SABC News spoke to Chweneyaga's uncle Mzwakhe Sigudla.
We are very much shocked about the sudden loss of our brother. We are still processing this devastating news. We would like to take this opportunity to express our gratitude as a family for the message of condolences, support that we've received from various South Africans. Indeed, it shows that our brother, our friend, our father has made a significant contribution with his craft in our country.
The South African government-backed candidate for the African Development Bank Group President, Bajabulile Swazi Tshabalala, says she remains optimistic that she will win the race. Tshabalala is facing 4 candidates who want to succeed the outgoing President Akunwumi Adesina, whose term is coming to an end. The election of the new bank leader will take place on Thursday in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire. Tshabalala says it's an intense race.
I'm pushing very, very hard. I think I have a very compelling vision for the bank and for the continent, and I think it will resonate with the shareholders of the bank. And I think I'm the best candidate to deal with these uncertain times. Knowing the organization, I can actually get in there and hit the ground running, and this is important during these complicated times.
Recapping the top story, South African households with access to electricity have increased sharply since 2002, according to Stats SA. I am on Delambana for SAFM News headlines at 4:30.
In your sports this hour, Sundowns launch campaign with beverage brand. Mashimbi explains Proteas woman changes ahead of the Caribbean tour, and Bucks and Babas to contest Qatar Airways Cup. More details at 4:30.
Do you want to study towards a tertiary qualification but need a flexible study schedule? Stadio Higher Education's distance learning qualifications offer just that. Our distance learning support is designed for your success. 2025 applications to Stadio's range of high-quality, affordable qualifications are now open. Distance learning qualifications are available in law, administration and management, commerce, teacher education, policing, law enforcement, humanities, and information technology. Visit stadio.ac.za and register today. Stadio, a new vision in higher education.
This May, SAFM celebrates Africa Month with you as we honor the legacy of the Organization of African Unity. We bring you rich conversations and stories that shape the continent. Join us as we celebrate African pride, unity, and progress. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound has roadworks with traffic restrictions at Omonde, and the R24 eastbound has a crash reported at the Edenvale Road exit. In KZN, the N3 eastbound in Ashburton has a stationary track at Linfield Park, and the N2 southbound is roadworks reported with traffic restrictions at Winkelspruit. In Cape Town, the M3 southbound slow-moving towards Rhodes Drive and Leesbeek Parkway outbound slow-moving through Observatory. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So I would have thought that some people may have been speaking about the return of Joseph Kabila to the DRC, and nobody's talking about it. I would have thought some people would have raised the issue of Palestine and Israel, and again, the young children dying, burnt alive yesterday. But the huge focus right now is on, I suppose, because it's Professor Andre Duvenach. We're not talking about a politician, are we? We're not talking about someone who belongs to an NGO lobby group. We're talking about a professor in political science, really. He's a political analyst based at Northwest University, who's saying what many others have said, that kill the Boer, kill the farmer is, it may be constitutional, but they've made a mistake, and there's 140 plus discriminatory laws. So his views are consistent with many others, even though we've just heard in the last day or two both President Ramaphosa and as well as Thabo Mbeki effectively saying the same thing, that, hey, we were part of it, we know. It is a symbol, it's not an actual And we need to understand that. But interesting that that's what he said. I wonder what you make of that, right? But also raise any of the other issues that you think move the national pulse today. Right, let's move on to other issues. Yesterday we spoke to the SABC News reporter Lerato Fekise about the violence that took place in the Valencia township in Addo in the Eastern Cape, remember? So let's get an update on that situation, because in many ways it may have been, within within the township, but maybe within the drinking culture. But at the same time, as people were, socializing, it sparked off. It was separated on the lines of local and foreign. So let's get an update on that situation with Lerato Fekise. Appreciate your time as always, Lerato. Thanks for connecting once again. Lerato, you there? Hi. Okay, we're going to just try and reconnect with Lerato Fekise as soon as I can. Okay, Lerato, we do have you there now, right? Go ahead. Hello.
Hi. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Right. So we spoke 24 hours ago. What has happened since then?
Since the last time we spoke, there is still a lot of tension in Valencia Township in Addo. There was sporadic protests this morning where tires were burnt by residents, but the police vigilance has put an end to that, and up until now there's been no fight between any nationals. What we do know that the number still remains that it is 4 people have died, 3 being confirmed now to be the foreign nationals. And what is also of a big concern now is the high number of foreign nationals, some still outside the police station, and some also have heard from the spokesperson of Sarah Sunday's River that about 70 or above have been taken to a local church in Gqeberha because they were told by locals from Valencia Township that if they return to the township, they will see violence again.
And when they were told that, what about, policing and safety and security? Because, that's the will of some people saying you will see violence if you return. Where's the attitude or the appetite to maintain law and order and provide safety for these people?
The police have been in high alert since yesterday, and more police officers have been deployed to Valencia Township and are obviously driving around the township to ensure safety and some sort of stability in the town. But at the same time, they also are aware of the threats of more violence should the foreign nationals return. So they are on high alert, whether it is at the police station. They've deployed more police officers and more law enforcement to the area, and because of the threats that are coming out now, that should the foreign nationals try to return to Valencia, there will be violence again in that area.
Is there any sense of besides the policing part, that there's community negotiations taking place between the different communities to say, come on, we need to find a solution. You can't lump everybody with the same in the same breath as doing the same thing. This issue has got to be resolved.
If you remember yesterday in the conversation that we had, Ashraf, there was a public meeting that was going to be held in the afternoon, and we spoke to the spokesperson this morning, and he confirmed that the meeting was not successful. If anything, the locals are still adamant that no foreign national will return to Valencia again, and they are saying they will continue to ensure they don't return there, and they've threatened them and said that the only way for them to return for them is for justice to be served. They say that they are very angry that one of their own was killed allegedly by a foreign national, and until justice, according to them, is received, they will continue to ensure that no foreign national enters again into Valencia Township. So the meeting that was supposed to try to bring some peace and stability was unsuccessful, and they're now going to hold another meeting this afternoon with the various stakeholders, people from the local community leaders, foreign nationals, municipality, police, to try to find a solution, because obviously foreign nationals need to go back. When we spoke, they said that they were told to quickly pack up their bags. Some were told to go to Limpopo. There was also suggested that perhaps the farmers who are employing these foreign nationals could understand that Addo is a huge citrus industry, and many of the people that are there are working on the farms there. So there's also suggestion by the municipality maybe to take some of the workers into their farms to keep them under safety there.
Right. What's likely to happen next? Not that you need to speculate, but in terms of what's your understanding about who's making the next move here? Because this can't be left alone, right?
Absolutely not. Well, the next move is the meeting that's going to take place this afternoon, where they are hoping to try find some middle ground between the locals at Valencia Township and also foreign nationals. The foreign nationals obviously want to return home. They cannot pack their bags and leave to another province or anywhere else. So they've been taken away, as many of them that could be taken away by truck are in Gqeberha. But the only hope now is that the municipality, the locals in Valencia Township are able to find some middle ground. But the tricky part, like I said, Ashraf, is that the only way to find a solution to this is for the suspect or those that are responsible for the death of Joan September to be brought to book. And until that happens, it's going to be hard to try and convince the locals of why they must allow the foreign nationals back into the township.
Now, lest we forget about the real issue that there has been a loss of life. People have died. People are injured. What's the position regarding the deaths and the family reaction and what they need to be doing next? And then, of course, those who are injured. What's the position regarding them?
The family of Joan September, who was murdered at the township at the tavern on Saturday night, which sparked then the retaliation by the colour community. We spoke to his father, and he was saying that he was very shocked to see how his community has reacted to what happened, and even said that the police were asking him to try and stop the reaction of the community, to perhaps try and ask them to tone it down a bit, not to retaliate the way they did in terms of coming after anyone who's a Zimbabwean national, because that was just causing more violence. And he said to us that he can't stop them, because as he was speaking to them, they were saying that we are trying to get justice for our brother, and not you or anyone is going to be able to stop us. The family is extremely distraught. They are heartbroken that their son has died so tragically, and the father was also saying that the justice for them looks like the suspect being apprehended, and that's what the only thing that will bring closer to them. And then we also spoke to some of the nationals who know of the ones that passed on, and they were also saying they're very distraught, because what is saddening about the situation is that anyone who was seen to be a Zimbabwean was literally attacked, and that was a scary part, that even if you didn't do anything, were not part of the group that killed Joan, by virtue of being a Zimbabwean national, you were then attacked in your yard on the street. And they were saying that they distraught that 3 of their own also passed away, especially innocently, because those have died are not those who are part of the group that killed Joan. So both sides very disgruntled, both sides very upset. And the common denominator here is to try and find a solution to get the foreign nationals back, but also the locals also saying, bring the person who did this or the group who did this to book, and then we can start talking.
Well, and that's the reality. Loss of life, people injured, who's behind it. And at the end of the day, we can talk about at length whether there were groups involved. But when there's a loss of life, there's a loss of life. And that person cannot be brought back. Lerato Fekisa, I appreciate your time once again here on the National Pulse. Thank you.
Welcome back to the sun-drenched shores of St. Marie, where the beaches are beautiful and the murders are mysterious. It's Death in Paradise Season 7. New cases, quirky suspects, and D.I. Jack Mooney, who's still figuring out the island and how to drink coconut water gracefully. Catch the show where paradise meets puzzling crime, because even in paradise, someone always has a secret. Death in Paradise Season 7, Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on S3. S3, open up.
A new client, a bulk discount, a chance to expand. Business opportunities don't wait, but with a Standard Bank Business Revolving Loan, neither do you. Get up to 10 million Rand in funding, access it anytime, and borrow again as you repay, giving your business the cash flow it needs when it needs it. Keep your business growing with a Standard Bank Business Revolving Loan. Visit standardbank.co.za/business loans to apply. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve. Proudly brought to you by Volvo. It's safe to be brave with Volvo.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
So President Ramaphosa has been very busy in Parliament with a taking Q&A session. We'll get to that in just a moment. In the meantime, the President also delivered the keynote address at the 2025 Sustainable Infrastructure Development Symposium, South Africa. That's the full name. That was in Cape Town as well. Now, at this event, President Ramaphosa then related about a moment, remember, that time when the lights went out in the Oval Office.
So when I came in, I saw the room going a bit dark. They darkened the room. And for a moment I wondered, what is this? It's happening to me again. Because at that moment we were seated very nicely, and I was beginning to get into a groove of, interacting with this man, and I suddenly hear him say, "No, dim the lights, dim." And I must say, a number of people have said, this was an ambush, this was an ambush. And I was bemused. I was saying, what's happening? So when I saw Clement, I said, this guy could have a role in all this. He's repeating what he experienced.
I would have thought rather simply there's like, oh my goodness, we have load shedding at the White House of all places. Anyway, let's get to the issue of Parliament. President Ramaphosa currently answering questions in Parliament. And we're going to pick out some other clips from some key moments of his time in Parliament. He spoke about companies extracting mineral resources in our country.
Any company that extracts a mineral resource in our country is required to pay the South African government a mineral royalty. This is because mineral resources are finite and cannot be replaced. So it is therefore important that a tax or a royalty should be levied. While it is always good to review existing policies against national priorities, there is no intention at this stage to reform the current mineral royalty regime as it is seen to work. The Honourable Member raises the issue of resource rent taxes. Such taxes aim to ensure that companies extracting minerals pay a larger share of their profits to government whenever profits are high. And this is a relevant issue. South Africa's mineral royalty regime incorporates an element of the principle underlying resource tax rents. And this royalty rate is applied to the sales value of a mineral and is determined by a formula that varies to profitability as well as to whether the mineral has been refined or unrefined. When a mineral is refined, more taxation is paid. There is a minimum rate to ensure that even if profitability is low, the country is still reimbursed for resources that are extracted. In this way, government collects more corporate tax revenue and mineral revenue, royalty revenue rather, as well as other taxes. During the commodity booms, this leads to a higher level of taxation. Statistics from the South African Revenue Service show that mineral royalties doubled from 14.2 billion to 28.5 billion between 2020/2021 and 2022/2022.
Okay, and there's more from the president. He then answered a question about a very important issue called Operation Vulindlela.
Assurance we should get from the better utilization of the funds or the revenue is really what we are about in terms of the priorities that we have set out for ourselves as a government of national unity. Our third key priority is to ensure that we have a capable state. We strengthen the arms of the state to be able to collect revenue, and to this end, SARS stands us in good stead, and with a further allocation of funding to SARS, SARS will be able to collect more, but the utilization thereof is then a responsibility, yes, of Treasury, but further than that, it is the various other divisions of government, be it at provincial level, be it at local government level, where the funding that SARS will have collected and allocated by Treasury should be utilized in a proper manner to avoid, yes, corruption, to avoid wasteful expenditure, and to ensure that in the end we do provide the services that our people need with the funding that will have been collected or extracted through taxes from the various economic players, be they mining companies or others. So the increasing and improving the capability of the state is precisely what we are focusing on. And we've also decided that through our Vulindlela process, we're going to focus on strengthening local government and making sure that local government functions better. A minister who is in charge of cooperative governance, Minister Hlabisa, is in the process of working out the precise legislative architecture that is going to help us to strengthen local government and to ensure that we are able to have the type of local government that will look after the resources that will have been brought through from the revenue, through the allocations by Treasury, right to the places where execution takes place.
Now, if we stop talking about it before, we've definitely spoken a lot about it in the last few months, isn't it? The issues of South Africa's race-based terminology, and it's come to the fore once again, of course, in the last few weeks, right? So the president spoke about that and reflected on the history behind it.
Of Africans, Coloureds, and Indians. In the census and other statistical reports, Stats SA uses the terminology Black African, Coloured, Indian stroke, Asian, and white. The use of race-based terminology will always be difficult for our country, for a country like ours to accept as we work to put behind the racial injustices of the past. However, until we have reached our goal of equality for all people in our country, there will be circumstances when we need to use such terminology. Our responsibility is to ensure that our use of such terms ultimately makes the differences they refer to less and less important, until they are rendered meaningless and no longer serve any purpose. We are, as you would say, on a journey to moving away from the shadow of our horrible past. Our horrible past, which defined us as separate groups and separate entities. What is important for us is to see ourselves as a definition or description to divide us. And we therefore need to rid ourselves over time of those divisions.
So is Ramaphosa right? Is he convincing? Does he have a point the way he's expressed it, particularly on the issue of racial categorization as a means of redress? It'll drop away when there is no need for redress. think about that. In the meantime, we have comments, and as expected, on a show that reflects just what the pulse of the nation is. There's a lot about the conversations we've had earlier on.
Afternoon, Ashraf, President Ramaphosa, and those journalists there, they are useless. They're supposed to ask him the question, why didn't you say that to Trump? All what he's saying now about that song, why didn't he say it right in Trump's face? Now he's saying it now this side of the sea. Come on, man, Mr. President. Naibu. Norman from Brixton.
Norman, let's move on to another comment.
Afternoon, Ashraf. This is Mapelo Soldado from Khayelitsha, Cape Town. I'm listening to the president. He should have said this to Trump's face. Now he's no longer in Washington, D.C. He's telling us about the sovereignty of the country, freedom of speech. Why didn't he say this to Donald Trump when he was asked about arresting Julius Malema, and also when he was asked about kill the Boers, kill the farmers? He said nothing about freedom of speech and sovereignty of our country and stuff. But now he's no longer in Washington, D.C. He's telling us this nonsense. Thank you.
You think he should have done that? There's I think at some stage I must get Keys to pull out the sound that he made of his comments a few weeks back. Very, very different to what he said in Washington and now that he's come back home. But should he have said what you're suggesting he said? Or should he actually have been the type of statesman understanding that you actually can't, even against your adversary, literally go there and say what you want? It's not going to be in your country's interest at all. I mean, they call that diplomacy. Think about it. 4:30, here's the news headlines with Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, President Cyril Ramaphosa has called on the private sector to supplement the 1 trillion rand to be spent on infrastructure by the government. Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana announced the planned spending on infrastructure over the next 3 years in the budget which he tabled recently. The number of South African households with access to electricity has increased sharply since 2002, according to Stats SA. And scientists from the African Union Development Agency say they believe scientific innovation in agricultural research can help combat malnutrition. Scientists have joined policymakers for the G20 meeting of Chief Agricultural Scientists in Bulukwane, Limpopo. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg Gous.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N40 northbound in Pretoria has delays towards the R101 interchange. Woodmead Drive northbound has delays towards Maxwell Drive. In Midrand, the N1 northbound is queuing towards Samrand Road, and the N1 northbound has a stationary vehicle before New Road. In KZN, the N3 eastbound in Ashburton has a stationary truck at Linfield Park, and Cape Town, the R304 northbound in Stellenbosch, a crash reported before Botla Road. Voortrekker Road in Goodwood is slow moving at the N7 checks Havel Drive, and Main Road outbound in Observatory slow moving towards the N2 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, Jimmy, you still want to stick around with the theme of Banyana. Banyana had important work they have, right?
Yeah, this time around, Banyana midfielder Amogela Motau says that the preparations for the Three Nations series against Botswana and Zambia will put the team in a good position as they look forward to the Women's Africa Cup of Nations. And this comes as Banyana prepares to host Botswana in their opening fixture at the Lucas Moripe Stadium tomorrow afternoon.
I think for now it's been good. We've been using every FIFA break to come together and get into camp, introduce new players, try new formations, and as I said before, like Banyana is in a transitional period, so it's going to be very important for us to take the new girls that are coming into the team and make sure that we have chemistry with the ones that have been in the team for much longer. So I think we've gotten opportunities to prepare, and we've been in camp every FIFA break. So I think it will put us in a good place to prepare for the tournament.
Then the Carling Black label has announced its official backing for Mamelodi Sundowns at the FIFA Club World Cup. The beverage brand is also the named South African beer sponsor for the tournament, and the announcement also revealed a score predictor campaign inviting fans to log their predictions for each of the tournament's matches. In the meantime, Free State MEC for Sports, Arts and Culture and Recreation, Ndobizanele Sifuba, has pledged her support for Bloemfontein businessman Eddie Modise, who has bought the naming and branding rights for Bloemfontein Celtic from Max Shabalala. Sifuba says that Modise is now in the process of acquiring a status in the Motsepe Foundation Championship in order to revive the famous green and white hoops. And although football fans across the country were hoping to once again see Masokolara back in the top flight in the near future, it's understood that Modise and his consortium have instead opted for the second tier and play their way into the Premier Division on merit. Then in cricket, Proteas woman coach Mandla Mashimbi dismissed suggestions that he dropped some of the squad members for the West Indies tour due to unsatisfactory performances in Sri Lanka. Mashimbi has recalled the experienced Marizan Cup to the travelling party. This is following her structured conditioning block when they went to play in the subcontinent.
Bringing the three in now, it's like I said, it wasn't because we were bad. It was just also giving opportunity to new bowlers to show what they can do as well. And also trying to find these combinations at those type of conditions where we need to pick the right players for the conditions. And, you got to give as many opportunities to as many people to see what are the best combinations going forward.
In rugby, Qatar Airways announced that the Qatar Airways Cup will be up for grabs when the Springboks take on the Barbarians in a historic clash on the 28th of June at the DHL Stadium in Cape Town. It will be the third edition of the Qatar Airways. The Springboks won both their previous encounters for the trophy against New Zealand in 2023 and Wales last year, both in London. Then in basketball, when the Basketball Africa League playoffs and finals take place in South Africa or in Pretoria next month, unfortunately, there'll be no South African team. This is after Made by Basketball failed to make the cut. MBB, which had replaced Cape Town Tigers in the BAL, as South Africa's representatives fell short of making the playoffs after finishing third in the Bal Nile Conference, which was wrapped up in Rwanda at the weekend. MBB coach Sam Vincent says that they faced many challenges heading to this tournament, and the state of South African basketball also contributed to this.
But now we've got to figure out what's the steps forward. And that is really focusing on getting a proper 6-month league, developing players, and having a chance to get the group together earlier before coming to this kind of competition. Well, one thing that surely has to happen is there has to be more of a formal national league that consists of at least 5 or 6 months of continued play, 20 games, 25 games. I saw the schedule for the BNL League, and there's maybe 3 games for the season. It's just not enough competition. If the South African players are going to improve and get better, they need to play. So that's got to happen. I think right now there's a lot of discussion around BSA and being able to get the national team back functional. So there's some organizational things that there's got to be some agreements made and some structures put in place so the kids can actually get out and play.
Well, that's it from my side in terms of the sports this hour. However, I say way to go, Ashraf, to Eddie Modise, who has bought the brand name of Bloemfontein Celtic and choosing to work his way up into the top league, which I feel like it means more rather than just buying a status into the top league.
Okay, so this is something I felt strongly about.
Yeah.
But the bigger rumor is that SuperSport United, we're going to lose. They're going to sell their franchise to a Bloemfontein consortium so that the Bloem Celtic will be revived. So is this the same person now who's opted to buy a lower league club?
He's going to buy a lower league club.
Right.
I don't know if it's the very same one. It was a rumor, though,
right,
that SuperSport is looking to sell their stuff, but there's nothing confirmed as yet. All I know about SuperSport is that they're fighting to stay in the top league. Remember, they play in Golden Arrows on Thursday. the second half of that match that was postponed back in I think it's on the 23rd of February because of the light issues. And they need to win that one if they are to stay in the league, or they're going to go to the playoffs, and you know how hard it is, especially when it comes to the playoffs.
Absolutely. And whether they super sport or not, they could be in big trouble anyway.
Yeah.
But the bigger issue is the point that we made up early on. And I chatted to someone about it last week as well, interestingly enough. This thing about clubs that have got no legacy. And there are too many South African clubs in the PSL right now. There's no long history because of this constant allowing of chopping and changing of different clubs, to buy different clubs and ship them to different regions. So there's no history, and that's no good.
And it would be sad if Matsatsantsa actually are relegated to the Motsepe Championship.
From the shows that bring us laughter to the moments that inspire us, your SABC TV license makes it all possible. Every license paid supports local stories, top talent, and the programs that unite South Africa. Pay your TV license today. Visit tvlic.co.za or your nearest retail outlet. # your screen, your story. Together, we make it happen.
The Copper Queens and the Zebras want to test each other's strength. This is not just an international friendly, they are gearing up for the Women's Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. Witness the thrilling battle between Zambia and Botswana on Saturday 31 May at 3 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Thank you for tuning in to today's business feature, proudly sponsored by CFI, a leading trading app now available in South Africa. Download it now. Visit cfi.trade today.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Okay, let's get to those numbers with Makwe Masilela, who's the Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. We're going to get all the news locally and globally, but we start with the interims for Pepkor, Makwe.
Yes, Ashraf, afternoon to you and to the listeners. The guys managed to outperform the market and gain the market share because they benefited from improved product availability, growth in retail credit, solid growth when it comes to cellular connectivity. Ashraf, 8 out of 10 prepaid cellular handsets are bought from Pepkor, and also the withdrawal from the two-pot retirement managed to help them because people use some of the funds to go and shop at those retailers, and their revenue was up 12.8%, with profits as headline earnings per share up 12.4%. Ashraf, bonds are rallying worldwide after Japan indicated it's looking to stabilize their debt market. That's after weeks of rising yields, and the dollar bounced back. Remember, the dollar so far this year fell almost 7% against its major peers, and equity is still dancing to Trump's tune as he extended the deadline on implementing those aggressive euro area tariffs, and concerns still linger as sweeping tax and spending bill makes its way through the U.S. Congress. And locally, our much leading business cycle indicator managed to go up by 1.1%. That's after dropping 0.2% in February. Ashraf, it offers us a forward-looking glimpse of the economy's health, and the easing trade war concerns tried to lift oil prices, but up until it is clear what the OPEC Plus will decide come this Saturday, traders are still jittery, and we see Brent crude is down 1.5% at $63 a barrel. And remember, tariff concerns contributed to yellow metal safe haven demand. So with the postponement of the EU tariffs, then it's not surprising to see gold falling. It's down 1.3% now at 3,296. Platinum is down 0.3% at 1,083. Global stocks generally are up, with the JSE up only 0.1% because we were negatively impacted by our resources, which are down 1%, but our industries are trying to lend a hand and are up also 1%. The rand fell 0.2% against the dollar, 17.89, 24.21 against the pound, and 20.29 against the euro.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for that update. We'll connect again tomorrow, Makwe Masilela. Much appreciate your time. What's still to come is issues that really matter, including the issue of Section 27 linking to life SED Many, and they've now joined the families in reiterating the urgent call to the NPA Act. That comes up just after the news at 5 o'clock. Okay. In the meantime, let's talk about an app, a wealth app that you need to find out more about next.
This business feature is sponsored by CFI, an authorized financial services provider, a global leader in online trading now available in South Africa. Visit cfi.trade today.
Hi, I'm Lewis Hamilton. Victory demands everything, but the journey is never solo. My team carves the way, data and innovation are my compass. This is how today's champions are made.
Trade like a champion with CFI. Access over 15,000 instruments, advanced trading tools, 24/7 support, and superior trading services. Visit cfi.trade today. CFI Financial Markets LLC is a Category 1 licensed broker by the UAE Securities and Commodities Authority. Trading involves high risk.
CFI, empower yourself.
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So, have you heard of Wello Health? Well, Wello Health is a health tech startup which solves the problems of access to health in South Africa and many of the SADC regions. Well, certainly that's the claim. We'll find out exactly what they do. Zanele Abraham Matome is the visionary behind the startup, which is empowered by human touch and technology. So, doing really what many people in the world are trying to do right now. Let's find out more about it and the impact it has. With me is the founder of Wello Health, Zanele Abraham Matome. Zanele, I appreciate your time here on the National Pulse.
Thanks for having me, Ashraf.
Thank you. Certainly, I love to look at technological advancement as a enabler to try and solve serious day-to-day problems, and I gather you're trying to do that with issues of health. Tell me more about it.
Yes. So when we started Wello, we were like, how can we match technology and the human touch to give people access to health? Because when you are in Africa, you cannot say you 100% digitized because of infrastructure and all of that. You have to speak to your people, and human touch does that. So that's how we decided to merge the technology and the nurses, our network of nurses and healthcare workers, to give people access to health at home and in the workplace.
Tell me more about how you go about doing so, because you have this technological app. How do you do that in practice?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So in practice, I'll tell you about our client number one. We'll have your corporates, which is like your small factories, SMME, and big corporates, where they need healthcare for their employees in the workplace instead of their employees going outside for healthcare. So we will do screening, wellness, and occupational health on site for nurses to come and digital doctor consultations to come and offer the services on site and also at home if you are remote. And this year, as from next month, we are now extending the services to Stokvel groups to say that even if you're not if you're not an employee, you're not part of any company, you can also get that service where a nurse, sort of your Uber, a nurse will come to your home, administer primary health care, and then you can also speak with the doctor or consult with the doctor with your WhatsApp, get your script, and get medication delivered to your home.
How popular are you? Meaning, just what's the numbers we're talking about in terms of actual usage?
Yes, so we've been operating since 2020 during COVID. So it's since 2020 and now. And actual usage, one of our clients is we have 8,000 patients that we take care of throughout South Africa doing oxygen therapy for their members from El Dorado Park to Michelle's Plain to Midrand. That's just one of our clients. And we have other clients. One of them is a trucking company where they have 13,000 truck drivers, where we offer healthcare to truckers when they are on the road. So a trucker will be driving from Rustenburg on the way to Mozambique on the N4. A nurse would come and do a checkup at the depot, and then the driver gets on his way. So those are the numbers that we're talking about. And now we're also expanding to the rest of the South SADC region.
All right. I think at startup you sort of started as the Uber of medical health care, right? Of course, Uber does charge, and I suppose you charge as well. Tell me how much do you charge? Because, we need to know where you make the money from.
Yes. So for the new one, the Stokvel one, which we call Hello Wello, that one will be at a subscription rate of 355 rands per month, where you get services to nurse to come to your home, digital doctor consultation, and medicine delivery for your chronic medication. And for the corporates, it's different packages because it depends on the number of employees and it goes on a sliding scale. So it can go from about like 100 rand for a just usual HIV test to around 500 rand for a proper screening, but that's mostly covered by the employer.
And what about, I mean, if people need to know more, direct me to, website or maybe the app that can find out more about it?
They can go to our website, which is www.wello.health, and they will get all the information there. Even the Stokvel guys, they can just go in there, and then we'll put them on our waiting list.
Okay, wello.health is a key one for them, and that's the call to action. Zanele Abraham, Matome, thank you for your time. Much appreciate you connecting with us here on the National Pulse about Wello Health.
Mara, why is the boss of breaking down spreadsheets now on the side of the road breaking down in a broken down car? Mara, why aren't you insured with Santam, the leading short-term insurer that gives you emergency roadside assistance and home drive services when you need them most? To switch, call 0860 444 or SMS cover to 36101. Santam. This is freedom. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer and controlling company for its group companies.
Pyramids FC is highly confident that they will make history by engraving their name in African football books for their first ever star, while Masandawana believe they know how to prevail away from home. Cairo tackles Turco. This is the second leg battle of the Total Energies CAF Champions League final. Catch Pyramids FC versus Mamelodi Sundowns FC this Sunday, 1 June at 6:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and S3. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Welcome back to the sun-drenched shores of St. Marie, where the beaches are beautiful and the murders are mysterious. It's Death in Paradise Season 7. New cases, quirky suspects, and D.I. Jack Mooney, who's still figuring out the island and how to drink coconut water gracefully. Catch the show where paradise meets puzzling crime. Because even in paradise, someone always has a secret. Death in Paradise Season 7. Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on S3. S3, open up. S3.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, we've had lots of people commenting, predictably so, on some of the issues that we've been talking about. Let me just get some of your comments. Many of them voice notes, some of them are text messages too. Right there, let me just get to, okay, got this. Right, comments about the song we'll get to, but there's also one about Duvenage too.
Ashraf, I hear Mr. Duvenage saying that a call to kill someone. The word boer means farmer in Afrikaans. Only in South Africa, where the majority of farmers have a specific race. Otherwise, translated directly to English, it just means kill a farmer with no specific race. Hence, we cannot then specify that it is a call to arms to kill a specific race. It is just that in South Africa, boers or farmers are white Afrikaners. But still, the song has nowhere in it where it says kill a white person.
Well, point taken. I think we all agree with that. In fact, Ramaphosa, not Ramaphosa, Malema made the point even yesterday. So, hey, Ramaphosa's he's a boer, he's a farmer. There we are. But, I mean, the long term, we know that the context, all they've said that, it's a symbol of what farming or the boers at that time or the boers were at that time and what they meant. So they're just trying to destroy a system, right, of what is perceived as oppression. The question is, at this point in time, is there an emotional overturn where it's outlived its purpose and impact for all who may sing it, just like so many other, struggle songs may have outlived its purpose? I mean, you can't say Free Mandela now, can you? Just Think about that.
Afternoon, Ashraf. This is Mapelo Soldado from Khayelitsha, Cape Town. I'm listening to the president. He should have said this to Trump's face. Now he's no longer in Washington, D.C. He's telling us about the sovereignty of the country, freedom of speech. Why didn't he say this to Donald Trump when he was asked about arresting Julius Malema, and also when he was asked about kill the Boers, kill the farmers? He said nothing about freedom of speech and sovereignty of our country and stuff. But now he's no longer in Washington, D.C. He's telling us this nonsense. Thank you.
Well, I mean, here's a point of debate. I certainly heard his talk a few weeks back, and he was almost like Robert Mugabe, like, you Trump, you keep your America, that type of thing, right? And but should he? And he says something. I will tell him when I see him, right? But should he have been as forceful as his public engagement versus when they actually met at the White House, or was he right, Ramaphosa that is, in toning down completely because he had a bigger fish to fry, which is to protect the country's interest, or not?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I enjoy listening to Dubenafe, but today I feel like he is biased, and he does not even answer the questions that you've been asking him, but he's been personal. That is my take on him today, and I must say I'm very disappointed in him.
Okay. In fact, I've heard that from many other people too. I mean, is it personal, not just because he's white, but because he's an Afrikaner? Does that sort of personal come through? I'm just thinking about it. There are many people who certainly believe that.
Good day, Ashraf. I would like to remain anonymous. Ashraf, I've never heard Prof. Duvenage so emotionally. He's emotional about this thing. It's his people, and. No, man. You must also try to scrutinize who we call to the shows to comment on such things. Because Prof. Duvenage, I've never heard him. He's emotional about something. He must not be emotional about this thing. It needs dialogue. He's being emotional now. Want to disagree with the Concord judgment. No.
Okay. Well, in terms of who we call, listen, we get a spectrum of people and we don't always agree. In fact, what we do is very intentionally often get different voices, not at the same time, different voices reflecting different opinions, and it's not just one person who lines them up. You know, myself, Temba, Keys, Vusani, who does the social media, we're all one team, and we make those calls on a daily basis as to the topic and the right people that we think matches up that topic for that day. Tomorrow is, in fact, another day.
I don't see any reason why this song, Kill the Boy, Kill the Farmer, is his song here in South Africa, more especially for Malema, and influence the others, because we get nothing. The other thing is, the Constitutional Court is biased when they say this, Kill the Boy, Kill the Farmer, is a freedom of speech. That doesn't make sense anymore, because if the other Afrikaners or whatsoever, they sing against the black by the names, how do we feel? My name is Les. Please, let's stop this. Thank you.
All right. Interesting. I mean, Duvenage made the point that, yes, he knows about the Concord ruling, but he said that he thinks they made an error. Okay, there we are. Let's get to Luvo in Klebecha, who also wants to talk about the Prof.
Yes. Good day, Ashraf.
Yeah, go for it, Luvo. Hi.
Yes, hi. The Prof, I respect him, I admire him. The Prof, today, he nailed it. I support him 100% what he said. Number one, let's think about this. What are we teaching our kids? What do we want our kids to learn for the future? If we have in this day and age people who are coming up with racist song, whatever its heritage, but those songs, we don't need them. It's the same like those songs, to me, if you take PE, you take those songs, the same thing. And if we can just reflect, apartheid happened. Yes, it's history. But let's remember, history is jealousy of the future. That's all I want to say, Ashraf. Because
Okay.
I'm really disturbed by that song, really disturbed. And people who are crushing the professor, I don't understand why they're crushing the professor. And in South Africa, what is growing up now, what is developing now, it's a racism from the black people. Because if a man is coming up with a comment, they don't listen to what the person is saying. They just judge according to the color of the person.
Okay,
And
yeah, you're
going-
accepting, I can tell you now, and I pick it up certainly from people who do call into these shows, that this thing of your last part, racism from black people, I do hear that, but I also hear, race-based conversations that start with race first from white people. So, even saying it's from black people could also be a racist way of looking at it. I'm just telling you because there's a lot of stereotyping in all that we do. Lubo, thanks for that call anyway, but you are supportive of Prof. Duwe Nagel now. What do you think? Tsepo in Kimberley, go for it.
Thanks, Ashraf. I totally disagree with what the last speaker now spoke to. And I think the previous WhatsApp caller was saying she threw something, indicated that it's always good to have a panel of different judgments that come through. However, coming back to the chant, I think there was a ruling that was made at the court, and I think we need to abide by that. There's nothing wrong that it came with. And in fact, we should be standing and protecting the song, as there is some significant history behind it. It has nothing to do with it. That was clearly explained, and we should just live for it. The issues that are being brought up here have got nothing to do with it. And the prof's opinion is very emotional. That's all from my side. Thanks.
The prof appeared very emotional, and some suggesting that it's emotional for today, not every other day. Interesting one indeed. Thanks for that, Tsepo in Kimberley. Right, let's see if I can pick up. In fact, there's a few other comments that I've got. I want to just get some text messages too, if I can find them. Right now, I'll get to some of the text just now. There's one more quick one I can play also about the song.
Hi, Ashraf. It's Libby and Jimmy C. If that song was sung during the apartheid time when people were fighting against the bad regime, why are we still singing it now? It's just like people who can start singing about all the makwerekweres that mabahambe, and then we call it it's democracy. Or if we start singing all those old songs undermining women or whatever, and then we still say it's democracy, we can continue singing it. I don't think it's fine, man. It's not fine.
Okay, got that. Well, there you are. You see, there's so many. And listen, we have listeners, and you're part of it, who are a reflection of the national pulse. That's why I say you move the pulse. And it's not for us to underestimate your levels of your insight and your intelligence. And every day I go home from the show, and sometimes we agree and often we don't. But one thing I learn is I learn from you all the time, because if we say this is the national pulse, then you reflect that, right? Okay, let's get the news. Here's Greg Gross.
Thank you, Ashraf. Call for private sector funding in infrastructure and research into combating malnutrition. Good day to you. President Cyril Ramaphosa has called on the private sector to supplement the 1 trillion rand to be spent on infrastructure by government. The Finance Minister, Inonkulu Godongwana, announced the planned spending on infrastructure over the next 3 years in the budget which he tabled recently. Ramaphosa says infrastructure is government's fastest growing budget item. He was delivering the keynote address at the Sustainable Infrastructure Development Symposium in Cape Town.
So with the 1 trillion rand that the minister has announced, I want us to quadruple it. I want 4 trillion rand. And the other 3 trillion rand must come from you as the private sector. That is where the money should come from. Armed with that, we then become a locomotive, unstoppable, because out of that 3 trillion rand that you will invest, you will get a good return.
The number of South African households with access to electricity has increased sharply since 2002, according to Stats South Africa. The General Household Survey shows the percentage of households that were connected to the power supply increased to 90% in 2024. Stats South Africa's Rasinga Maluleke.
When we look at the 77.3% of electricity nationally as a main source of energy for cooking, we could see that provinces like Limpopo were sitting at 34.3%, and of course 16.7% of households in Mpumalanga continued to use wood for cooking purposes.
The Communications Minister, Solly Malatsi, says he understands that some view the timing of the gazetting of policy directions for equity-equivalent investment programs and communication sector licensing as suspicious. Some reports claim the directions are aimed at favouring Elon Musk's satellite-based internet service Starlink. The minister appeared before Parliament's Portfolio Committee.
What I do pick up, though, which is a genuine concern of the members of the committee and some of the sentiment of the public, it is saying, why that week? And I make the point that depending on what conclusion you want to get to, you'll get any argument that suits that. I made the point earlier that when we communicated on the policy directive, the timeline we were aiming and working with was to finalize the policy direction process by mid-June.
Meanwhile, the majority of members of the committee did not accept the minister's explanation. EFF member Sitkolisa Tiktisha, MK MP Colleen Makubele and Oscar Mutafa from the ANC had harsh words for Malatsi.
We'll make sure that we explore all legal mechanisms, because we are not about to accept a situation where our laws are rewritten in Washington.
The clandestine unilateral approach that you took in providing this policy directive is for us very bizarre.
This policy directive is not correct to be proposed under the current circumstances that the transformation agenda of the GNU that we represent.
Scientists from the African Union Development Agency say they believe scientific innovation in agricultural research can help combat malnutrition. Scientists have joined policymakers at the G20 meeting of chief agricultural scientists in Polokwane and Limpopo. Scientist Alfonse Musafiri.
CAADP is the comprehensive Africa agriculture program, new agriculture in Kampala, where we are going to move in terms of food systems. We need to increase productivity, increase finance for agriculture, leverage on youth and women to make sure they are be integral part of agricultural transformation, fighting malnutrition. So these things we require knowledge, we require experience, we require science evidence.
Top story, President Ramaphosa has called on the private sector to supplement the R1 trillion to be spent on infrastructure by government. That's SAFM News, I'm Greg Khus.
In your sports this hour, Sundowns launched campaign with beverage brand Box and Bus to contest Qatar Airways Cup. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound in Germiston is queuing towards Geldenhuys interchange. The M1 southbound in Parktown has a crash before Jan Smuts Avenue. The N12 eastbound in Ridgeway queuing towards Xavier Street exit, and 11th Avenue in Houghton Estate has a crash reported at Central Street. In KZN, the N3 westbound queuing towards Cliffdale, the M7 St John's Avenue queuing through Central Pinetown, the M7 westbound queuing at Bel Air Wexley Road Junction, and the N3 westbound queuing towards the Pavilion Shopping Centre exit. In Cape Town, the N1 Service Road outbound has a crash before Sayville Road. The R304 northbound in Stellenbosch has a crash before Butler Ray Road, and the M7 Jakes Harville Drive as roadworks reported with traffic restrictions at Samora Machel, queuing traffic going south. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Hey, want to check your TV license balance conveniently? Look no further. Our SMS service allows you to do just that. By sending a message containing your ID or TV license number to 44210, you can quickly access your balance without needing multiple inquiries or waiting on hold. Plus, standard SMS rates apply. Take advantage of this efficient method to stay informed and streamline your payment process today. T's and C's apply.
This May, SAFM celebrates Africa Month with you as we honor the legacy of the Organization of African Unity. We bring you rich conversations and the vibrant sounds of Africa. Music that moves the soul. This is SAFM. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So, there are two people that I just want to reflect to in terms of them passing away. One is Presley Chweneyagae, who's one of the key actors in the movie Tsotsi. Remember that won that Best Foreign Film at the Academy Awards, I think 2006 or something like that. It's amazing, like almost 20 years ago. And I don't know what the circumstances are that he passed away, but he has. And I had the privilege at the time of interviewing him in my previous stint at SAFM. We had this feature called In the Spotlight, and I hope I can get the podcast of that even now. But sadly, he's gone, and that's one. And the other is Darren Scott, who... he hosted a talk show, well, not a talk show, music show. He was a DJ on 5FM and also had a 1-hour sports show on the same channel, and then hosted the Boots and All rugby show on SuperSport. And, at the time, I would think that he was just something else as a radio host, as a DJ, and as a sports host. And there were very few people like him. And of course, I've had the privilege of watching and learning from him. And they had this uncanny ability of being completely human about the way he did things, completely one-on-one in everything he did. So really sad moment. I know then he finally blotted his copybook with the use of the K word with his colleague. And that, he fell from grace, and I don't think he ever recovered from that. And, I can't really comment about that part of his life, but certainly as the host, as the presenter at the time, he was Mr. Rugby in sport, and certainly as a DJ on 5FM, there was just nothing like him. He was that good at what he did, right? Okay, let's move on now to a really sad issue about, again, the fallout from Life Esidimeni. It doesn't just go away, isn't it? So we now hear that the Section 27 are joining the families in reiterating this urgent call to the NPA to act. Let's get some perspective around that, okay? The Life Esidimeni families and the supporting organizations are calling on the NPA to urgently pursue criminal charges against the former Gauteng Health MEC, Keidani Mahlangu, as well as Dr. Khabo Manamela, the former Director of Mental Health in Gauteng. So Section 27 have certainly spoken about this before, but now they're actively supporting this. Let's find out more about it with Sasha Stevenson, the Executive Director of Section 27. Sasha, appreciate your time here on the National Pulse.
Afternoon, Asha. Thank you.
Thank you. So give us some context, first of all, in terms of where we are, because, it seems like a story that's had a long journey. A lot has been done and a lot has not been done, and therefore the pursuit to the NPA, isn't it?
That's right. It has been a very long journey and a very difficult one, particularly for the survivors of the disaster and also the families of the people who died, the 144 people who died after their move out of Life Esidimeni into NGOs, so-called NGOs that were just totally unprepared and unable to care for them. It's been a long process since 2015 when the decision was initially taken. And then last year in July, there was a finding by a High Court judge after an inquest that took 2.5 years. And that finding was that there were 2 people whose conduct caused the unnatural deaths of at least 9 of the mental health care users. And those 2 people were the former MEC Mahlangu and the former Director of Mental Health, Dr. Manamela. And what that finding essentially does is say to the NPA, on the face of it, these 2 people's conduct caused these deaths, and now then there can be a prosecution, and the NPA needs to make a decision about that prosecution And almost a year later, the NPA still hasn't told us whether they've made that decision or what the decision is.
So let's stay with that. I mean, when you say, the High Court judge finds them responsible and the NPA is to make a decision, what decision do they have to make in terms of the legal processes from High Court judge to NPA? What needed to happen?
Yeah, so the High Court judge was presiding over an inquest, and an inquest is a process to determine what the legal cause of death has been. And we've seen a few inquests reopened recently of people who died during apartheid, and what those processes do is to say what happened that caused the death, and had there been anybody whose conduct caused those deaths, contributed or caused those deaths. So really what it does is says, on the face of it, it looks like there is sufficient evidence to essentially bring a prosecution, that it seems that the actions or the omissions of particular people caused certain deaths. That's what the High Court judge found. But then it's the NPA, which is independent, that can make the decision whether or not to prosecute. The judge has found that on the face of it, there could be criminal charges in the form of culpable homicide charges, but the NPA needs to make the decision. The NPA still hasn't done that. And as a result, these families who lost their loved ones in 2016 are still awaiting the beginning of criminal justice, and that just isn't acceptable.
Okay. Has the NPA given any reasons as to why they may be stalling on this issue?
No, we know that the NPA had a meeting to discuss the matter. We've been told that that there is a report that has gone up the chain, but we don't know what that report says, whether a decision is made, and when there's an intention to announce the decision and hopefully to get started on the prosecution. And so the families really are left in the dark, unfortunately. And this is obviously very distressing because it's been a long time. There needs to be accountability, not just from the state, but from the individuals who took the decision to move people out of Life eSetemeni when there was so much evidence that it was going to be dangerous, and who implemented those decisions despite the professional knowledge that they had that would have indicated again that there would be risk to health and to life.
And what are the sentiments, both from the families and let's say from organizations like yourself at Section 27, concerning you now fronting up and effectively trying to hold the NPA to account? Meaning sentiments by, have they stalled on this on the basis of, just tardiness or inefficiency, or is it stalling because of a lack of political will? Something that they've been accused of on many occasions in the last few years, if not longer.
We don't know what the reason for this delay is, and I wouldn't want to cast any aspersions. But the fact of it is that the families are once again left in the lurch. That there's been this finding, this inquest finding, that the evidence has been considered by a High Court judge, and an indication has been given that a prosecution can be opened. Now, as I say, the decision is for the NPA to make, but they have a clear indication from a High Court judge there is a need for there to be a prosecution, not just for justice for the deaths of the mental health care users, but also because accountability is so difficult to find in our democracy. And this is a particularly grievous human rights violation that Section 27 has been supporting the families on through legal representation since 2015. We've been pushing for the NPA to make this decision, for the Gauteng government to do what it can, and it has done that in previous years. Now we're just waiting for this prosecution decision, and it's an important one for the NPA to make. And
we just lastly understand that as we talk, there's the National Department of Health preparing to convene a national mental health review boards meeting tomorrow. So it's very, very topical in terms of where we are right now, right? So therefore the stance of the families and yourself in really urging the NPA to act. I mean, how far are you going to take the stance besides, talking to people like myself on the National Pulse? Is there a specific plan of action?
We've been engaging with the NPA, trying to encourage them to prioritize this decision, and that's really as much as we can do. As I say, the NPA is independent. It makes its own decision on prosecution. And so all we can do really is continue to engage the NPA, ask that the families be given the updates that they've been requesting, and also that the decision really be prioritized. This has to be a priority for the NPA, for all people in South Africa to see what the consequences of dealing recklessly with other people's lives and with vulnerable people's lives are. And so all we can do is encourage the NPA to prioritize this decision, to take action, and to prosecute the people who Judge Tefo found their conduct caused the deaths of 9 vulnerable people.
Bottom line, know your priorities. Sasha Stevenson, appreciate your time. Executive Director of Section 27. In relation to the issue of the life, Isidameni, well, the families in this case here, and the NPA, an urgent call for them to act. Since 2016, that has not happened. That's why they call the show the National Pulse. What does your pulse rate tell you now?
The land is their legacy, but in season 3 of Yellowstone, that legacy is under fire. Kevin Costner returns as John Dutton, fighting to protect his ranch, his family, and everything that can't be bought. More enemies, deeper betrayal, and the battle for the West, it's only just begun. Yellowstone Season 3. This land was won with blood, and it'll take more to keep it. Saturdays at 9:30, starts 24 May, only on S3. Open up.
The Copper Queens and the Zebras want to test each other's strength. This is not just an international friendly, they are gearing up for the Women's Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. Witness the thrilling battle between Zambia and Botswana on Saturday 31 May at 3 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio. You're listening to the National Pulse.
You may have been hearing the story regarding the MK party, and there's been multiple reports, in fact, that Mzwanele Manyi has been removed, and the key word is really removed, services terminated as the chief whip in Parliament of the MK party, and he's been replaced by Colleen Makubele. The MK party not forthcoming now in terms of putting up a spokesperson or a response from any of the key people that I've just referred to. But that's the story as we know it, and there's been multiple reports confirming that has been the case. They have a new chief whip. Well, let's get to the old stories when it comes to water in the Joburg region. I understand once again we have a problem, and whether it's to do with the shortages or maintenance issues, it's certainly one of the biggest issues that the people of Johannesburg and outlying areas have been facing for a long time. So Rand Water has now announced a series of critical infrastructure maintenance operations from Thursday at 3 a.m. to Tuesday, June the 15th at 5 p.m.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
So that will happen, for a good few days. In fact, as you can see, it's like 3-4 days at a time. Let's find out what exactly the story is with Makenosi Maru, the spokesperson for Rand Water. Good to connect with you as always on the National Pulse. Hello.
Good to talk to you. Good evening and good evening to your listeners.
Thank you. So, it's interesting when we were discussing it now between Okies and I about impending water maintenance. I'm saying, actually, I live in the northern suburbs of Joburg, and many of those areas already don't have water. So, and I'm talking about last night as well as this entire day today, right? What's the position?
All right. I think we need to clarify that we haven't started with maintenance. We have received a number of calls from various areas that people don't have water. Some of them it's been 5 days. So from Rand Water's point of view, we haven't even started with the maintenance. We are only starting on the 29th of May. So we will have water. Obviously, the reservoirs will be full for the 29th. So basically what we're going to say is people are going to start getting water trickling because of the maintenance from the 30th. 29th, the reservoirs will still be full while we are starting the maintenance.
And which areas will be affected by this?
A number of areas will be impacted, but will be impacted at different times. So the 3 metros will be impacted. We're talking about Ekurhuleni, Johannesburg, and the city of Tshwane. Those will be impacted. But also we're talking about the small local municipalities. We're talking about Mohale City, Randwest, Mirafong, Bisedi, Govindegi, Rustenburg, and Victor Khanye. Those are the local municipalities that will be impacted.
Okay, so I mean, that means major parts of the metros in the Gauteng province, right? Let's go back to why is this important and why that long period of, let's call it, stoppages in terms of water flow.
Right. The reason why we are undertaking the maintenance, let's start there, is to increase our capacity and to ensure that plant availability. Often from time to time we get reports that there is a problem there, there's a problem there, whether it's electricity, whether it's vandalism. We are trying to really protect and look after our infrastructure. So we are taking longer because, one, we are going to be looking at the pipelines. Some of them are quite old. They need to be replaced. We are changing the meters. We are cleaning the sedimentation plants. So it's quite a number of jobs that we are doing. So it will require time, as we indicated. It does not mean because we're starting on the 29th, we're finishing in July, people will not have water throughout. We are going to go area by area, and we will be communicating as and when we get to an area. We have also communicated with municipalities, informing them precisely what's going to be happening.
So give us an indication when you say area to area, right? I mean, so let's say area 1, let's say you talked about the city of Tshwane, so that's the Pretoria area. Now, is that considered one area, or do they still break it down into different suburbs? Meaning, does that entire city get affected on one day at one time, and for how long, or not?
All right. I'll give an example. For example, with the Mapleton system, we're starting on the 29th. We are finishing on the 2nd of June. So there will be pumping at other areas. Other areas will not have water completely. So that's where we are. Then we move to another area on the 3rd of June up until the 6th of June. So we'll be moving area by area. So, and then other areas towards the end, it will be the 30th of June up until the 2nd of July. So that gives an indication. It's not a question of we starting from May up until July where we're saying people will not be able to have water. It's area by area, obviously for specific amount of hours. And we have made contingency plans with municipalities to ensure that should an area not have water for a longer period, there will be roaming water tankers.
Okay, so let's bring it down to individuals, right? So a person in any suburb, let's say in one of the Gauteng metros, Joburg, Ekurhuleni, Tshwane, I'm just looking at those 3 for the moment. How long typically will one family be affected in terms of hours or days while the maintenance takes place?
All right, let's look at the first one. From the 29th, we are talking about 4.5 days without water. The first day we don't count because the reservoirs are full, so it will be 3 days without water. This is where municipalities are coming in with water tankers that will be roaming, obviously, to ensure that people do get water. Then the system also needs to recover. But there is a need for us to really maintain and look after our infrastructure. We will not do this if there is no need for us to really undertake this project. Also remember, we are legislated. We have to maintain rainwater's infrastructure.
All right, I get you. But so what you're saying, at any moment in time, typically when an area is, let's call it hit, right, that they would have no water for at least 3 days, yeah?
Yes, it will. We're being upfront, we're being honest that for example, Mapleton pumping station, there will be a time where there is no pumping at Mapleton, because remember, we have to look at the pipeline, take it out completely. We have to do the scouring, ensure that there is no water completely in the pipeline. We fix the pipeline. Then we start pumping water, look if there are no airlocks, ensure that the system works properly. Then we can start pumping water.
What now? I'm just going to echo the thoughts of just about anybody. If people listening on air, if I get home and I meet family and friends or community WhatsApp groups, they will all say the same thing, which is we understand the importance of maintenance. It is the absence of maintenance that leads to breakdown, so we're on side with that. But isn't there, in 2025 with modern technology, isn't there a better way to do this without having an actual cutoff of water supply? We're on side to do it. We just don't want to have no water because we just can't survive without no water. What do you tell them?
Look, I hear exactly where they're coming from, and I also understand the frustration. I can imagine if you have to be without water for a couple of days, it is frustrating. But looking at the infrastructure of rainwater, exactly where it is in terms of the pipeline, the size of our pipelines, the distance of our pipelines, we really have to do this. And we don't have to cut corners. We want to do a work that is done properly to ensure that we don't have comebacks. We don't have to go back and say, this was not done properly. Can we be given an opportunity to do it correctly so that we move on and we are able to supply high drinking quality water?
Well, that's where we leave it. Let's see how that plays out and reaction we'll get. And let's get our systems online as soon as possible. Makenosi Maru, the Rand Water spokesperson. It's interesting as we talk about this, and I can't speak on behalf of everybody because this affects the entire Gauteng region, the three major metros and many other smaller towns as well. I also understand that in terms of reports for now, there are already many of the suburbs in the northern parts of Joburg, there could be others too, already without water. It may not be linked, but they've been without water late yesterday. There's been some throttling. There's been nothing this afternoon. And it's possible that they could be online with water by tonight or tomorrow, and then the next day, the rainwater story kicks in, and they'll have no water again for at least three days minimum, maybe even 4 days. Oh my goodness, man. Are you saying that? I mean, are you saying, oh my goodness? Because I'd be tempted to say that. Oh my goodness, where do we go? Although we understand, as we all should, that maintenance is important. It's like giving your car for a service. You know why you give it. Because it's important, but you just don't want to have no car. And unfortunately, with no water, you don't have an alternative, isn't it? For the majority. I know some people have alternatives, but the vast majority, when that car goes for service, as in #water, there's no alternative supply. And you're just buggered unless you're willing to pay and pay and pay buying water at the supermarket. And for the few people who've got, boreholes and things who are very happy to be able to support you. But that's the minority. 5:30, here's the news headlines with Greg Gross.
In the headlines, the majority of South African households involved in agriculture do so to provide extra food. President Ramaphosa has called on the private sector to supplement the 1 trillion rand to be spent on infrastructure by government. And speakers at the International Tax Reform Summit have emphasised the important role played by civil society in pushing policymakers to ensure that the wealthy pay their fair share of taxes. A full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound in four ways queuing towards Winnie Mandela Drive. The M1 southbound in Bromfontein has a crash at Empire Road. Brom Fisher Drive in Randburg has a crash near Dover Street, and Steve Biko Street northbound in Pretoria queuing towards Lavender Road. In KZN, the N3 westbound in Hammersdale has a stationary vehicle reported after the Cliffdale exit. Umgeni Road westbound is slow moving through Springfield Park, and the M7 St. John's Avenue queuing through Central Pinetown. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound has heavy traffic towards the M5 Koeberg interchange. The M5 northbound is queuing towards the N1 Koeberg interchange. Main Road northbound is slow moving in places between Fischhoek and Muizenberg, and Marine Drive inbound in Podden Island has a stationary truck reported on the ramp to the N1 inbound, causing heavy traffic delays in the area. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkgapele.
To me, when it comes to Mamelodi Sundowns, the sky is the limit, or is it?
It really is. And Mamelodi Sundowns chairman Tlhophi Motsepe says that partnering with Carling Black Label for the FIFA Club World Cup is a way for the Tshwane side to give back to their fans. The beer brand announced today its official backing of Mamelodi Sundowns at the tournament. And as part of the partnership, there's a score predictor campaign inviting fans to lock their predictions for each of the tournament's matches.
it's a testament to South African sport. It's a testament to, you know, where we're going as a country and what we have to offer, that they see the value in working with us as we head to the Club World Cup. And that's essentially the whole bedrock of this partnership. You know, Mamelodi Sundowns is going to the Club World Cup, and Black Label, the championship beer, is taking the champions to the world. And Black Label are calling themselves the champions beer because they are the most awarded beer in Africa. So for us, it was an opportunity to find synergies and to find ways through our, you know, support for the fans and the ways that we want to create exciting campaigns to give back to the supporters, because, you know, unfortunately we can't bring everybody with us to the Club World Cup. So to be able to have these incredible games and campaigns that we're going to do with Black Label, and of course they're talking about wonderful watch parties that we can do in the communities. These are all small ways that we can share this wonderful and historic moment in the club's history with our number one player, which is our supporters.
In the meantime, Free State MEC for Sports, Arts and Culture, Ntombizanele Sifuba, has pledged her support for Bloemfontein businessman Eddie Modise, who has bought the naming and branding rights for Bloemfontein Celtic from Max Shabalala. Sifuba says that Modise is currently in the process of acquiring a status in the Motsepe Foundation Championship in order to revive the famous green and white hoops. Although football fans across the country were hoping to once again see Masakolara back in the top flight in the near future, it's understood that Modise and his consortium have instead opted for the second tier and play their way into the Premier Division on merit. In cricket, Proteas woman coach Mandla Mashimbe says that they're taking few lessons from the Sri Lanka tour onto their next assignment at the West Indies. The one-day international series against the West Indies begins on the 11th of June and ends on the 17th, with 3 T20 internationals to follow from the 20th of June.
And for me, the winnings there was the partnerships that we've done, the hundreds that we scored, the things that we learned from. Probably our bowling wasn't as tight as it should be, and our fielding wasn't great as well. So those are the learnings that we took out of that, and that could be the thing that affected the outcome of the games, you know. But we were sitting here and we look at how many ticks we took out of Sri Lanka, and it's a lot more than the crosses, to be honest with you. And for me, that still makes me a winner, because I'm in a better space now, knowing that these are the things that has gone wrong, and knowing that these are the things that I need to apply going forward, and make sure that, you know, we're ready for the World Cup.
Meanwhile, Punjab Kings coach Ricky Ponting has urged his players not to lose focus after his side qualified for the Indian Premier League playoffs for the first time in 11 years. Now, Punjab registered their best performance back in 2014 when they finished runners-up to Kolkata Knight Riders, but failed to make the playoffs in the subsequent 10 seasons. They have looked formidable under Ponting and captain Shreyas Iyer this season, however, securing a top 2 finish following 9 wins in 14 matches. In rugby, Qatar Airways announced that the Qatar Airway Cup will be up for grabs when the Springboks take on the Barbarians in a historic clash on the 28th of June at the DHL Stadium in Cape Town. It will be the 3rd edition of the Qatar Airways. Now, the Springboks have won both previous encounters for the trophy against New Zealand in 2023 and Wales last year, both in London. Then in tennis, 3-time Roland Garros champion Novak Djokovic began his journey in Paris with a 6-3 and 6-3, 6-3 win over Mackenzie McDonald. Alexander Zverev went through to the second round with straight sets of 6-3, 6-3 and 6-4 win over Lerna Tien, while in the women's side of things, Jessica Peguela beat Anna Todoni 6-2 and 6-4 to book a place in the Roland Garros second round. And talking about the Roland Garros, I don't know if you saw it the other day, Ashraf, when the tennis royalty returned to give Rafa Nadal the
Of course I saw it, yes.
He deserved. And I was just like, oh my goodness, these are the goats of the goats. It was Rafa Nadal, Roger Federer, Andy Murray, and obviously Novak Djokovic, who's still playing in the Roland Garros.
And I noticed Novak Djokovic is the only one who didn't wear all black.
Yeah.
I just saw that.
Maybe because he's still playing.
Maybe. But he said he stood out.
Right. What a time to be alive.
After school snacks, a bag of chips, or maybe some biscuits, instant noodles for lunch. Ultra-processed products such as these may be high in sugar, salt, or saturated fat. Having too much of these products could lead to diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease. Our health is in danger. We have the right to know what's in our food. Demand front of package warning labels now. Sign the petition on heala.org. HEALA.org.
WAFCON defending champions Banyana Banyana have a crucial meeting with the Zebras. Both nations are elevating their preparations for the highly anticipated Women's Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. This is the international friendly. Experience the Southern African Derby, South Africa versus Botswana, this Wednesday 28 May at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, S3 and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Your nights just got a turbo boost. Buckle up because at 10 p.m. it's all thrill, mystery and pure entertainment. Mondays to Wednesdays, we are back on the track with Top Gear Season 14, where speed meets insanity and the world's wildest cars get pushed to their limits. On Thursdays, we uncover the truth in Imposter, Back from the Dead. Season 1 kicks off with chilling twists in a tale of deception, survival, and secrets long buried. Fridays, we take a deep dive into the unknown with Secrets of the Bermuda, exploring the myths, the disappearances, and the terrifying truth behind the world's most infamous triangle. 3 explosive shows, 1 unforgettable hour. It all starts at 10 p.m. only on S3. Don't miss it!
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, Jimmy Moya hosts the SAFM Market Update. So we're in a strange situation based upon our conversation earlier on that many cities, but certainly the city of Joburg, could well be a situation of no water. But then you're going to say no power either, Jimmy.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. I hate to terrify South Africans, but it could be a reality. We don't yet know what the status is there, but it seems as though there are some financial reports that have been kept from the Johannesburg Council, financial reports that have allegedly been around for quite some time, since December of last year, and it looks as though people are shifting the conversation to say we didn't know about it, or we did know about it but we didn't disclose it. There's a whole complication around it, and we're going to get to the bottom of that, or we're going to at least try to make sense of what's going on. You know, where it comes to financial matters and matters of balance sheets, I always pique my interest a little bit more when I have to listen to these and try and figure out what's going on. So I'm going to start digging, I'm going to start down that rabbit hole and figure out what's happening. But the long and short of it seems to be that there could be some serious solvency and financial position concerns around City Power as a business. It looks as though we're several billions in the red if the numbers are correct, but we're going to dig into that and see what we can make of it. We'll obviously put out a request to the city to respond to the conversation. We had put out a request for comment from them, but I'll be chatting to Wayne Duvenage about that from the organisation Undoing Tax Abuse to get a sense of what's going on here and see what we make of it. We've also got a conversation with the team at Charge. They're in a local EV company that produces charging stations. They've got an interesting development happening on their side. They've just unlocked around 100 million rand from the Development Bank of Southern Africa to streamline their business and bolster their efforts. It's going to allow them to continue to roll out charging stations throughout the whole of South Africa. We're going to speak to one of the co-founders of that business and see what's happening there. Then we've got a conversation around Petro SA. They had quite an interesting agreement with a company called NACO that has seemingly gone awry, and someone owes someone else money. We're going to look into that. We're going to try and figure out what's happening there. It had to do with the delivery, or one of the companies taking delivery of diesel on behalf of Petro SA, and now it seems as though there was no contracts in place, and we're going to look at that and see how significant that is. The deals were to the tune of just shy of R1 billion, so I want to look at that and see what's going on. There's been dedicated investigative journalist at Amabungane, looking at this. We're going to speak to her, get a sense of what is really happening here. Then we've got a conversation with the team at Zeda Limited. They are, of course, the parent company that owns the Avis Group and the Avis business. I've got a conversation with the CEO around their interim numbers for the first 6 months of the year. And then we're going to wrap up the show with a property feature. We're going to be taking a look at lease agreements, what you should put into a lease agreement, what you should leave out of a lease agreement, what you should be looking for in a lease agreement if you're a tenant, and how to best protect yourself in the world of leasing. So that's our property feature for today. But before we get to all of those news, the markets have certainly been moving in their own right. And if we look at some of those market movements, it's been a relatively balanced day. I'd say we've got a couple of data points coming out from a South African perspective that have had markets a bit steady or a bit on the fence, waiting to see what happens. But if we just look at some of the developments that have been taking place throughout the day, if we look at equity markets, starting with international markets, they would have been trading first, of course, a bit of a mixed bag there as well, with some of the international indices. Most of them were in the green, though. Shanghai was the only one in the red, about 0.1% down. But the Nikkei in Tokyo, that was up about 0.5%, the biggest gainer there. The Hang Seng was up about 0.48, so just less than the Nikkei in Tokyo, but also in the green. The DAX in Germany was in the green by 1%. The CAC 40 in France only 0.25% up. The FTSE in London 0.75% up. The Nasdaq is up 2% at the moment, and the S&P is up 1.6%. Now, of course, US markets are going to trade into the evening. Our own local markets finished rather flat, but this was because the resources were down 1.1%. They were cancelled out in part by the industrials being up 0.75%. Financials were also down 0.2%, so about 0.25% there. The rand weakening against the US dollar, giving back a bit of gains there. It's up at 17.91 at the moment. One British pound will cost you 24.19. 1 euro will cost you 20 rand and 30 cents. 1 Australian dollar, 11 rand and 53. 1 Bitcoin hasn't really moved, $109,700 a Bitcoin, around 1.97 million rand, as it was this time yesterday when we looked at it. Quick look at commodities before we go. Gold a bit softer, just below 3,300 at $3,290 a fine ounce. Brent crude, $63.80 a barrel, softer than the $65. We're happy with that number. Platinum and palladium fairly unchanged from yesterday. Platinum a little softer at $1,080. Yesterday it was closer to 1,100, and palladium at 987. So we're going to look at these market movements. I've got Skulk Low of PSG Old Oak joining me on markets this evening. We're going to try and see what's moving the market and what to anticipate. We know, of course, we've still got that rates decision coming up on a Thursday, and I want to kind of look at that and see potentially what the central bank is thinking, and if I can pick Skulk's brain around that. But we'll be back for that conversation around 6 o'clock. For now, Ashraf, back to you.
Right, you got 50 minutes before your show gets underway. The SFM Market Update with Jimmy Moyonga. Right, but what it means, it's time for me to get a sense of your pulse. So are you on the pulse? Let's talk.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, comment from you. Tim saying, Ashraf, spot on. Oh my goodness, for most issues in South Africa, so sad. Really is. Okay. And there's more. There's a whole range of WhatsApp comments I want to pick up on.
Ashraf, it's Chris in Pietermaritzburg. We thank heavens that those who keep saying the president should have said this, should have said that to Trump in the Oval Office are never going to be our president, and they will never represent us. The long game of diplomacy made the president to behave the way that he did, and we are very satisfied. It is the future of the country and the youth in particular that we have to fight for. We need investment, we need jobs, and that is what was in his mind, and that's why he behaved the way he did.
Well, I mean, I must tell you, I agree with you. You may not agree with the politics of the USA, but once you've decided that you get invited and you're going to go, then what do you want to do? You want to hopefully clear the air around the misconceptions of the country, which I don't think they fully cleared the air, but many media in the world confirmed that what was put out in those videos were fake news. But what you also want to do is to maintain economic relations with that country, which I think by and large Ramaphosa has sort of succeeded in that. So you don't get invited by an adversary and accept the invitation, and on that basis you go there and you go out and slam the adversary. If you're going to go and then you want to find a way to work together, I mean, that I agree with you. That is diplomacy, and believe me, that's what most people in the world do in positions of leadership. They just have to.
Hi, Ashraf. You know what? Our president, Anas bin Yabab. Anas bin, he couldn't tell Trump nothing. He comes here now and he talks all brave and he wastes his time and he wastes our time. Anas bin he's useless. Baji KZN.
Well, you've made your point, which clearly, as you know, is not what I just said. So we disagree, and you disagree. Others will agree with you. Others will agree with my point of view on that one.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and SAFM listeners, your team there. I think for likes of Andrew Duvenach, before they come on our radio there on SAFM and talk their feelings, they must first approach the court. Why the court took the decision to clear Malema of this song? It's the court that said there's nothing wrong with the song. It's not anyone, it's the court. Then they must go to the court and ask the court why they came up with that decision. It's Marumo and Mahike. That song is okay, we are going to sing it anyway.
Okay, you've made your point. Go and ask the courts. Well, he believes that he accepts the court made that decision, but he believes they made the wrong decision. So he's not saying he's going to disobey it, but he's just saying they made the wrong decision.
Ashraf and hearers of the station, evening. You see, once you say kill, we are not going to support you. You can killing of the farmers or killing of what? Once you say kill, we are not, because if I can say kill the baby, what is going to say? If I can say kill the teachers, once you say kill, we're not going to support you.
Well, listen,
from Inand, bye.
I would agree with you in principle that I would be reluctant to join any grouping where they would chant the word kill anything. The difference here, and I think we just have to get perspective. You said kill the teachers, for example. That would get thrown out because the original kill the boer, kill the farmer, which really means the same thing, boer farmer, refers to a time in the apartheid South Africa. So you can't string up a new line and says kill whatever and think that's going to hold. It's not going to hold.
Ashraf, why are these white people that make these comments on television, on radio, why are they so sensitive about this song? The court has ruled. Why do they want to be selective about when the court is right and when the court is wrong? Teresa, Cape Town.
Thanks for that, Teresa, and many may agree with you. Well, I think it's there's been nothing spoken about it for the better part of 10 years. It's come up again, and the more it does, the more the Maldemas of the world do sing it, and it gains currency, isn't it? Should they be sensitive? I mean, nobody's dying because of that, but even if you don't like it, I mean, I agree. Many people have called in, and they're black people, who are like, come on, man, this is distasteful, move on. I mean, I think a relevant question to the EFF in the main, because the ANC are not singing it, is has it outlived its purpose? Meaning we understand why, but what's the purpose of it now? And how does it shift society and even their own constituency right now? Just think about that.
Good day, Ashraf. It's Mandla in Bushla Park. Unfortunately, I didn't hear the interview with the professor. I would have loved if you had asked him, or maybe you did ask him, I don't know, the question about this white guy who ran over. Was it black children, or should I say just black people? I don't hear the conversation about that. Thank you.
Yeah, but I'm not going to ask him about a personal case, an individual case, versus an entire national issue that reflects liberation at that time. There are more calls. We'll also get to Klabirwa right after this.
Slipper Day is on the 30th of May, and I'm helping to make big dreams come true. When you support Slipper Day, you're helping Reach for a Dream bring smiles and joy to children facing tough illnesses. Do you want to help too? You can visit reachforadream.org.za to find out more about Slipper Day. Let's do it for the dreamers! This is an SABC-supported initiative.
In a land scorched by the sun and shaped by time, life refuses to surrender. From the silent stalk of the Arabian leopard to the resilient march of the sand gazelle, witness nature's fiercest survivors. Arabian Inferno, a journey into one of Earth's most extreme habitats where every day is a battle for survival. This is the wild. This is Arabian Inferno. Sundays at 6 p.m. on S3. Open up.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Okay, let's get to some of the callers. Khlabirwa, go for it. Hello.
Thank you for taking my call, Ashraf. Look, the song, firstly, the Constitutional Court has ruled on that one. And even Miriam Makeba has an album with the song. And it's not only the song, there's Kanun, Suzoba Dubula Epai. So there are many songs that simply represent the structural system that the South African is facing, which of course is land and economic exclusion. That's what it represents. So there is nothing that suggests otherwise, other than those things. Thabo Mbeki has fully explained that thing. And even today, there are few racists or white supremacists who still cling on to it to say that we don't sing that song. That song will be sung. I was playing the city of Miriam Makeba not so long ago. That singing is though. They're not complaining that why Miriam Makeba has released that album, which contains those songs. They're not complaining.
Well, because some songs are more popular, they've gained more currency, and they're being sung at certain political events that gain greater mileage. Because that's really what it is.
Maybe because it's been sung by Malema. If today Malema can decide to sing Suzoba Dubula Epai, Suzoba Dubula, they still gonna complain.
Okay.
But this represents the structural, and they know it. This represents the structural, but they just want to perpetuate their whiteness into us.
Okay, got
and
that.
And this song will continue to be sung as long as the land and the economic structure is still in the hands of the white. It's not going to be sung more than 100 years ago.
Okay. Khlabirwa, got that. Thank you for making your point. By the way, that conversation I had with Andre Duvenage, you can listen to it as a podcast. So I interviewed him at about 3 o'clock, 10 past 3. Listen to the podcast. It's been tweeted out, so you can check it on our X platform, SAFM Radio. But also go to the website, safm.co.za, then podcast, then the National Pulse. You'll find that interview as well as everything else today and other days, all available as a podcast. Right, in Kululeko, in Den Hauser, I think it is. Go for it. Hello.
How's it, Ashraf?
Yeah, good indeed. Right, your point?
My point is South Africa is a banana republic with the most stupid president, a coward of note. My brother, this thing that he went there to discuss with Trump is not what they're telling the people. We must be told what exactly transpired in that meeting, what they were discussing, because what we are told is not the true reflection. What my inspection is that they were discussing this Starlink nonsense that is going to come here and enrich further the racist Elon Musk, the person who hates black people to core, a racist of note. Ramaphosa should have stood for South Africa and the South Africans, black South Africans in particular, because Trump...
So what should he have done? I'm going to just push you because time is against us. When you say stood for him, what should he have done? Stood for South Africa.
Ramaphosa was supposed to give Donald Trump and that Elon Musk the South African stand. The courts have ruled on this Dubuli Punu chant.
Okay.
That it's not racial and it doesn't mean any violence.
Okay. Nkululeko got that. Thank you. Some may say, as has been said yesterday, you think the Americans don't know that? They know everything about our country. Whether he said it or they didn't say it, they know it all. I mean, they have an embassy in this country. They have a consulate in this country. They have 500 companies or Americans in this country. They know everything. Tapela, go for it. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, good. Make one quick point. Go for it.
Yeah, I just want to say when Ramaphosa went for that debate, he knew what he was going to say. What was he willing to give? Because in a negotiation, you get something and you give something. What is it that he was going there to give? I think that's what we need to know, because there's something he was supposed to leave there so that he comes back with something. What is it?
Well, and we don't know. Got that, Tapelo. Thank you for that. Time's against us. In fact, Thabo Mbeki, the former president, made the point yesterday, whatever it takes, South Africa must do a deal with the USA. I'm just saying, that's what he said. Right, Sianda, quick one from you in Uteneg. Hello.
Good evening. Ashraf, the reason South Africa is like this is people who lack the respect for the office of the president. Ashraf, SABC is a public institution. Correct the person who calls the president a stupid man. It doesn't matter whether a person disagrees with you, but you must respect the office of the president. That is why our country is like this, because we lack the basic things of respect. That is why our children are like this. Thank you very much.
Okay, got that. Respect the office of the president. Well, there's two sides to that. I mean, and political leaders themselves have this mudslinging against each other, and we hear that every day. So on the one hand, you may be right to say respect the office of the president or the presidency. On the other hand, the flip side of that is respect the right that we as South Africans have to come out front and voice our opinions. And if we want to even say kill the Boer, kill the farmer, that's an expression that's been okayed by the Constitutional Court. So respect that, even if you don't agree with it, for example, and then respect everything else, because we can effectively differ and publicly differ, which I must tell you is not a right accorded to many, many people in many, many countries of the world. Let's do this now. So you know I made the point about Darren Scott passing away, the former Radio 5FM presenter and Boots and all and SuperSport. We've also then got the news later on that Presley Chweneyagae passed away. And of course, he was one of the key actors in Tsotsi, that Academy Award-winning movie, right? There's been reflection on what he said from many people. Listen to this.
And after the screening, someone comes to you and says, "Hola," and you get so surprised. Hey, you're in Europe. And after that, you're like, I left the country 20 years ago, but I'm South African. So I guess that sense of us communicating and wanting to be South African each and every day gives us a pride for our own country. And I really want to thank everybody here, the SABC, everybody, and to tell my country that I'm happy to meet my president today. Thank you.
And that just shows you how long ago it was, because he gave that comment, Presley, of course you could hear it, right, when he met the then President Thabo Mbeki after receiving that Oscar for Tsotsi. So I think that was like 2006 or thereabouts. Sure, man, so much has happened in our world, and that's why we call the show The National Pulse. Tomorrow we'll come from Birchwood, because SAFM, we're having a conference there, so we'll be there. If you're around there, come and say hi. I don't expect you to be there, but, well, then you never know. Maybe you just work in that area, isn't it? At 6 o'clock, let's get the news. Here's Greg House.
Thank you again, Ashraf. SA households turn to subsistence farming and a call for private sector funding in infrastructure. Good evening. The majority of South African households involved in agriculture do so to provide extra food. That's according to the 2024 General Household Survey released by Stats South Africa. Stats South Africa's Rasenga Maluleke.
We're saying that more than 3/4, that is 75.5% of households involved in agriculture did so to produce extra food, while 11.6